Good morning, everybody. It is time for the Week 14 main slate NFL Live Before Lock show. So do me a favor if you guys are coming in right now, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got a big show for you guys. It is, well, it's the normal setup. We got myself here for 45 minutes. Then we're going to have Ben and Lofty on the deep dive for an hour and a half, followed by Eric and Spags on the Live Before Lock portion for an hour and a half. It's going to be a good time. In this portion of the show, I'm going to answer any questions you guys have about lineup builds. If you want me to check out a lineup that you are building for yourself in the single lineup sims, if you're a Stokastic sub, at me in Discord, and I'll build that for you on the show and evaluate it. If you are in the YouTube chat, leave a super chat, and I'll be looking at all of those to build any lineups that you guys have of your own. But let's start here by looking at our projections and our ownership that we've got for our run this morning. And a pretty big gap at quarterback between our top projected quarterback and everybody else. That here is Josh Allen. Josh Allen projected for 24.5 fantasy points, which I think is the highest projection we've had on any quarterback for the entire season. And then we've got Matt Stafford at 21.5 fantasy points. And that's it for quarterbacks over 20 fantasy points. Then you get Jaden Daniels at 19.5. And then you got Joe Burrow at 19.5. So you're looking at, a 3 fantasy point gap between Josh Allen and Matt Stafford, then another 2 fantasy points between Matt Stafford and Jaden Daniels. Also, maybe a little bit of concern, how much is Jaden Daniels really going to be running today? I know that it wasn't a leg injury, it was an arm injury, but you consider that it was pretty gruesome looking when it happened, and the Commanders also pretty far out of the playoff mix. Like, will they maybe want to be a little bit more conservative to keep Daniels healthy? We'll see. But as far as ownership goes at the quarterback spot, we've got here Josh Allen, 13% owned. Stafford, it's very, very similar to what we just saw in terms of projections. You're seeing the highest projected quarterbacks are also the highest owned ones. So 13% ownership to Allen, 10.5% ownership to Stafford. Then you got just under 10% ownership going to Jaden Daniels. As far as value goes at the QB position, we've got Daniels. One thing that also stands out here about Jaden Daniels is that he's been priced down a little bit because of his missed time. He's only at 6K now. He's a quarterback who is 7K plus for a lot of last year. So that is something that mitigates at least some of the risk when it comes to Jaden Daniels, just the fact that he has been priced down, and also a matchup against the Minnesota team that is a really struggled on offense, which could set Jaden Daniels up in a lot of good field position. But nobody that's projecting like outrageously well compared to everybody else on a points per dollar perspective. You can see all these guys pretty similar, but in order: Jaden Daniels, Tyrod Taylor, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen for points per dollar. Quarterbacks at running back now, we have leading the way Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Bijan Robinson. They're all projected for 21 plus fantasy points. Then you got Josh Jacobs for 19 fantasy points. Then the next highest projected running backs, you got Breece Hall, Bucky Irving, each at about 17.5 fantasy points. Ownership at the running back position, we've got James Cook, 31% owned, Josh Jacobs, 24% owned, and nobody else over 20% owned. This is a slate that's fairly flat as far as ownership goes. We don't have any super obvious value plays like we've had on a lot of previous weeks, which it's kind of funny because you would have thought that week 14 were this late in the season that we would have so much more injuries and value situations relative to earlier weeks. But it's kind of not gone that way. We had a lot of the best value weeks earlier on in the season, and ownership just tends to be a little bit flat as a result of that. But James Cook, like I said, 31% on leading the way at the running back position. Points per dollar options that we've got here: James Cook and Josh Jacobs, followed by Ashton Genty, Kenneth Walker, and Breece Hall. And once again, nothing crazy cheap showing up as a great value option at running back. Wide receiver now leading the way, we've got Puka Nacua, JSN, and Jamar Chase, all projected for 20 plus fantasy points. They've all been studs this season. Then, of course, also Jamar Chase playing one of his few games with Joe Burrow this year. We haven't seen a lot of them together this season. And then you've got Devontae Adams is the next projected wide receiver. So nearly a 5 fantasy point gap in projection between Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams. There's a big difference between the top 3 studs and everybody else at the wide receiver position. Ownership, we've got here Michael Wilson, 31% owned at $5,600. Once again, we've got a situation where the pass catchers are going to be a little bit thin here for the Arizona Cardinals, and we're not that far removed from seeing this sort of situation. We don't have to go back too far in time to find a situation where Marvin Harrison was out, and that's what we're getting again for this week. So the targets that we saw out of Michael Wilson when Marvin Harrison was out due to his appendectomy, pulling those up over here. So Michael Wilson, this was the kind of just massive workload that we were getting. And I know that you guys remember all the fantasy points he was scoring, but also just want to paint a picture in terms of the targets that he was getting in the 2 games we saw that Marvin Harrison was out. Against the 49ers, 18 targets. Michael Wilson caught 15 of them for 185 yards. Then a game against the Jaguars, second game that Marvin Harrison was out. Michael Wilson was targeted 15 times. He caught 10 of them for 118 yards. So in the 2 games that we recently saw without Marvin Harrison, 33 targets for Michael Wilson. On a slate that doesn't have a ton of value at $5,600, he's not super cheap, but he's at a price point where he's one of the better points per dollar options, in my opinion, on the entire slate. We've also got Puka Nacua, 28% owned. No other wideouts more than 20% owned. Jamar Chase, 18% owned. And then you got Egbuka here at 13.5% ownership. Value at the wide receiver position, you'll see it is Michael Wilson leading the way, followed by Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, and then Luther Burden. We do have Roma Dunze out today for the Chicago Bears, so that is going to create a little bit more value in that scenario. And at $3,800, only 9% ownership, I do like getting overweight to the field on Luther Burden. He is shown to be explosive when he gets the ball in his hands. And you also got Adonai Mitchell at $4,600, projecting pretty well on a points per dollar basis. He has been the de facto number 1 wide receiver for the Jets in the absence of Garrett Wilson. At tight end now, let's see what we've got for projections. We've got Trey McBride at 18.5 fantasy points. I know we've got a shorthanded Cardinals team, but it's still going to be kind of hard for me to get up to Trey McBride a ton at tight end because he's 8K. The slate doesn't have a ton of value. I just kind of feel like he's priced for the situation already at this point. So Trey McBride, if you have the salary to spend up for him, cool. No issue with that. It's just going to be hard for me to really prioritize Trey McBride at an 8K price point. Then we got Brock Bowers at 15 fantasy points and change, Tyler Warren at 13 fantasy points, Kyle Pitts at 12.5 ownership at the tight end position. You've got Pitts as your most highly projected owned tight end, just under 20% ownership to Kyle Pitts. Tyler Warren, 14% owned. Brenton Strange, 10% owned. Points per dollar plays at tight end. We have Kyle Pitts, Colston Loveland, AJ Barner, Brenton Strange. Now, let's go ahead and start building some lineups. I see we've got a super chat here already. So let's see what we've got Matt Corsetti cooking up for us. He wants us to start looking at a Sam Darnold stack. All right, we can do that. I like getting to Sam Darnold this week. We've got Darnold with JSN. Pretty reasonable stack there. Sort by projection. And then we've got, who else is in the lineup? James Cook. We've got Tyler Warren. And then he wants us to finish it out with the optimizer at 10%. All right. Or percent to first, 10%. Well, we'll do both. All right. So let's go 10% to first. And then I'm also going to set this on 10% RAM, this to fill out the rest of the lineup. So as far as the core goes, no issues with it. Sam Darnold to JSN as a stack. Maybe I would slightly prefer getting to Kyle Pitts at tight end as a run back here as opposed to Tyler Warren. But overall, these are all good pieces, I think, for the slate today. And we didn't see the most dynamic game out of the Seahawks passing game last week. It was by far the worst game that JSN has had of the entire season. But one thing to keep in mind, how much did the Seahawks even have to throw in that game against the Vikings? They won the game 26-0. The Vikings weren't doing anything on offense with Max Brosmer at quarterback. What did he turn the ball over like 4 times or something like that? So it was a pretty conservative offense for the Seahawks. I think this is a pretty good bounce back spot for them against the Falcons. So let's complete the lineup, see what shows up around it. We've got Darnold, Cook, Josh Jacobs, JSN, Michael Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland for a double tight end lineup, and then the Jets defense. I'm going to play a ton of double tight end lineups for this slate. Just there's only so many places that we could go to save salary. And look at this. If we go to the flex, so all skill position players, and sort by points per dollar, Kyle Pitts, number 1 in terms of points per dollar in our projections. Then we've got some spend up running backs. We got Michael Wilson. We got some other cheaper running backs. But look, if you want to get really cheap, Colston Loveland, AJ Barner, Brenton Strange, Harold Fadden, Tyler Warren. A lot of these are our best points per dollar plays that are 5K and below. So that's going to lead to quite a few double tight end lineups for me coming out of the Sims. All right, let's run this here for Matt and see how it comes out. And pretty solid, 81.1% sim ROI. So good start for us here. I do like those Sam Darnold stacks, like I said. Let's see if we got any questions in Discord. No, not quite yet. If you guys do want to know how to get access to our Discord, just sign up for any package that we have here at Stokastic. Link is down below in the YouTube description box. You could either go right to our sign up page and sign up, or you could take advantage of any of our affiliate partners through the link join program. If you guys have not taken advantage of this yet, you certainly should. Because for each one of our partners that you sign up for, you're going to get 1 free month of a single sport of a core Sims package of your choosing. So if you guys sign up for 3 of the partners you see here on screen, you could get yourself 1 free month of NFL, 2 free months of NBA. You could do 3 months of any one single sport. This is the best available offer that we have, and it is a standing offer that we've had for the entire season. We also had for last year as well, but we don't know how long it's going to be around for because it's not really in our control. It's up to our partners' discretion whether they want to be in this program or not. So you guys should be taking advantage of this while it exists. 1 free month of Stokastic Core access for each one of our partners that you sign up for. And also, if you just want to sign up directly, we got the links down below in the YouTube description box to sign up for. Another super chat here. What do we got? We have from Adrian. All right, a Tyrod Taylor lineup. Taylor, Cook, and Achane. Okay. Taylor, Cook, and Achane at running back. So we've got Achane as a run back. Then we got Cook as just an overall good play and a good matchup against the Bengals. Adonai Mitchell. I dig it. One thing also to consider with the Jets, I think that Mechie is a pretty interesting lower-owned leverage option here because Mechie, we've got him for just 5% ownership at $4,500, whereas Adonai Mitchell, we've got him at 13% ownership at $4,600. I do like both of them, but I'm going to get myself overweight to the field to Mechie also as a leverage option in the event that he ends up being the top guy today for the Jets, which we've seen a good amount of work for Mechie over the course of the last few games as well. It has been Mitchell who's been the better fantasy producer, but it doesn't mean that Mechie isn't getting his looks. Over the last couple of games, we saw against the Ravens, 7 targets, caught 6 of them for 65 yards and a touchdown. So that was a very good fantasy game for Mechie. Last week, he got 8 targets. He was just wildly inefficient with them, just 4 catches for 19 yards on those 8 targets. But the opportunity was there for him. So I think he's an interesting lower-owned option for the slate. And also he's going to save us some salary as well. All right, Luther Burden. I like all the guys in this lineup that you got, Adrian. Pitts, Bucky Irving, Browns defense. I like this lineup. I think this will sim out well. I think this will come out well. Pitts, we've got Bucky Irving. And Bucky Irving, who is supposedly going to be on some sort of touch limit last week coming back from an injury, didn't seem to be all that much of an issue. He had, 19 touches last week, was super heavily involved. So Bucky Irving, now another week removed from that injury. I think he's going to be a bell cow back this week. Let's get the percent to first up a little bit for this. And let's run this out. Tyrod Taylor stacked with Adonai Mitchell and running it back with Devon Achane for a little Jets-Dolphins stack. And looks good, 46.6% sim ROI. So Adrian, lineup's looking good. We've got, all right, Dan asking a question about my least favorite part of DFS, which defenses have the most upside for today. So, I mean, I know they don't have a great defense, but how do you not say the Commanders to some respect relative to their price point at $2,800, considering how terrible J.J. McCarthy has been this season? I think the Commanders are certainly a defense that we should be considering. As far as just like high-end upside, the Broncos against the Raiders, they're $3,900, which is always going to be a tough salary to get to for a defense. But Geno Smith is getting sacked a shit ton this year. He's playing terribly. He's been very turnover prone. The Broncos have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They have one of the best scoring defenses in the NFL as well. So if you're paying up, I'll say the Broncos if you're going cheap, the Commanders defense for you there, Dan. And all right, no other super chats here. We do have one question from Discord. This is from Rhyme Life Music. He wants us to build out a Bo Nix stack with Troy Franklin and Brock Bowers running it back. All right. Bo Nix, Troy Franklin, and then he's got Brock Bowers as a run back. I really don't like getting to the Raiders offense all that much. I mean, we just talked about which defenses have the most upside, and I said the Broncos the Broncos defense against the Raiders, and then immediately got a lineup here with a Raiders run back. So if I'm going to play the Broncos, which looking at the initial sims I ran, I have 4% exposure to Bo Nix, so a little bit, but nothing all that substantial. I don't think I'm going to be very high on Denver today, but any lineups I have with them, I don't think I'm going to be super inclined to get run backs. But let's just build around this and see how it sims out. If we're combining this with just some of the top overall, I'm going to take Ashton Genty out of this. Let's re-roll this a little bit. I don't want to get Genty and Brock Bowers in the lineup. All right, let's re-roll this. All right, Bo Nix, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, Michael Wilson, Troy Franklin, Luther Burden, Brock Bowers, Kenneth Walker, Commanders defense. All right, so let's see how this sims out, because this is, about one of the better projected lineups we could possibly have around the Broncos. Came out okay, 27.9% similar. So positive, we can make viable Broncos stacks with a Raiders run back. But you guys could also see this is one of the lower simmed lineups that we've had so far to this point. All right, let's see what else do we have here. Alex, what is my read on the Dalton Kincaid injury situation? Well, let's search Twitter. Let's see if there's been any more recent reports on Dalton Kincaid. I didn't have a super strong read coming into this. Let's see. Do we have anything more definitive? Not really. I mean, I know that people hate to hear this, but I think it's going to be close to a 50-50. Here's the one benefit, though, Alex. The game starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time. This isn't a 4 o'clock or 4:25 game. We'll know before the games tip off. Like, you don't have to make some sort of guess on whether he's going to be in or out or build your lineups around it. He's supposedly going to try to play today, but I don't know. Like, I don't really know exactly what that's supposed to mean. Is he healthy? Is he going to be a decoy? Is he going to have to play limited snaps? I hate some of the coach speak stuff where it's like going to try to play. I never know exactly what's like. Is he going to end up being a late scratch? We're going to find out he's limited. I want to get a little bit more information on him, but I don't know. I don't have a great read on it. I'll be honest with you. Kyle is asking us for a Tyler Shuck lineup. Shuck, Achane, Cook, Vele, Chase, and then we've got Luther Burden, Darnell Washington, Bucky Irving, and the Ravens defense. All right. Let's see what this one ends up looking like. By the way, I did end up betting Tyler Shuck to score a touchdown again this week. I bet him last week at 16-1. I bet him again this week at 11-1. He's got more rushing upside than I think most people realize. When they get down to the 1 yard line, yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit of a dice roll. The Saints do all kinds of weird things when they get down to the goal line, but he's been running the ball enough. He's big enough, good enough athlete that I think the odds are a little bit too long for him to score a touchdown. All right. Vele is your stacking partner. Then you've got Jamar Chase. Who else? Luther Burden was in it. We've got the big guy at tight end, Darnell Washington. I think that's why Lofty got here a little bit early today for the deep dive. I think he just knew that somebody left a super chat about Darnell Washington. I'm on the same page, by the way, Lofty. I love Darnell Washington. He's fun to watch. The first person who turned me on to Darnell Washington, and who was it? Bucky Irving in the final spot, Matt Gajewski. For a while, when Darnell Washington was like not even on people's radars, Darnell Washington was Gajewski's like favorite player in the NFL and going back to college as well. Ravens defense. All right. See how it sims out. Tyler Shuck. Devon Vele is our stack. And then we've got Bucky Irving as a run back in this lineup. Not all that great, 7.8% sim ROI. Let's try something. Let's try something a little different. It was fine. It was positive. But let's see what happens if we go to Olave here instead. And then let's try taking Darnell Washington out. And let's try taking Achane out as well, just to save us a little bit of salary. Kept a lot of the same guys in here, but I just want to see how this ends up coming out. Also, actually, might want to take the Ravens defense out. That's just a simple way to save ourselves some salary. So let's go here. I'm going to take Jacobs and the Ravens defense out, and let's see what shows up here. Ended up being the Browns defense and Jacobs. The Browns defense does project a little bit better for us. All right, let's see how this comes out. Kept most of the lineup the same, but we changed the stack partner from Vele to Olave. Yeah, increased the sim ROI by about 20%. That's marginally better. I think that's a better stacking partner than Vele. Let's see. We've got Jeremy left a super chat. There's no question attached. He wants to know, what does a cash game lineup look like for the early slate? All right, let's just look at the early one then. All right, if we go early and now just optimize on 0% randomness, see what shows up. All right, so if we optimize the early slate on 0% randomness, Josh Allen, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, Adonai Mitchell, Kyle Pitts, Brenton Strange, Commanders defense, something like that. Something like that. We'll go back to the main slate now. Thank you for the super chat there, Jeremy. Next one, we've got Worldwide Wes, a Joe Burrow stack. I like Joe Burrow quite a bit. I'm surprised his ownership didn't come up at all. We've still got Joe Burrow at sub 5% ownership or actually right around 5% ownership. I thought it was 4.5%, but 5.5%, whatever, still low. I like Joe Burrow at $6,500 as a buy low option. Obviously, we've got Jamar Chase as a stacking partner. That makes a ton of sense. Who else do you have in this lineup? You've got James Cook. You've got Michael Wilson and the Browns defense. Let's run it. Michael Wilson, Browns D. Burrow, Cook, Chase, Wilson, Browns D. Let's set this on 10% randomness and fill it out. Ashton, I'm going to take Genty out of this. Let's reroll. Let's take Genty out. And yeah, I'd rather play, I don't love RJ Harvey, but I'd rather play RJ Harvey at running back today than Ashton Genty on the other side. So what do we end up getting to here? Joe Burrow, James Cook, RJ Harvey, Jamar Chase, Michael Wilson, Luther Burden, Tyler Warren, Harold Fannin, Browns defense. Let's see how this one comes out. We've got here, solid again, 51.6% SimR. This is kind of like where we've been living. A lot of ones with no like crazy high SimRs, although we did have the one at the top, the Darnold stack did the 81% SimR, but a lot of them in like this 50-ish% range. You guys are building a lot of good lineups today. Burrow, Judkins, Cook, Chase Higgins, Loveland, Juwan Johnson, Cleveland defense. All right. Interesting. A lot of people putting the Cleveland defense in their lineups as opposed to the Broncos defense. Small sample size because just a handful of lineups, but I just found that notable. Joe Burrow, Judkins with Cook. Good matchup for Judkins against the Titans defense. So he's definitely another viable option to get to in the mid-range. Not all that costly, not all that popular either. The double stack, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in the lineup. We got T. Higgins returning from the concussion today. And then you've got Colston Loveland at tight end. Yeah, I think Loveland's a pretty interesting guy to be getting to. Only $3,200, 7% ownership. No Roma Dunze for the Bears. What does that do to their offense? Right? DJ Moore, he was expected to be the number one wide receiver coming into the year, but it's been a massively disappointing season for him. Like, where do the targets go? Tough matchup, rivalry matchup against the Packers. I think in hindsight, we're going to look back on this and say, like, oh, some pass catcher on the Bears should have been higher on than what they were, because nobody's all that popular from Chicago. And I think that's a miss. The problem is I'm not exactly sure who it is that I want to get to. Loveland could be somebody. So that is definitely a possibility. We'll build out after this lineup. I actually do want to build out a Bears stack and look at our Bears projections. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Juwan Johnson. It's a double tight end lineup. And am I missing somebody? Who else was in this? All right. Cook, Chase Higgins, Loveland. All right. So I'll just fill out the final spot with whoever projects the best, because there's one guy missing here. So wide receiver, who projects the best of the available players? We've got, well, Burden. Who else? Vele. Let's just plug in Luther Burden. That might mess the lineup up a little bit. They're both fairly cheap. Loveland at $3,200, Burden at $38, but it is a double Bears pass catcher with no Caleb Williams, no Packers run back, but 28.5% sim ROI. That looks okay. All right, so here's what I want to do. And then I see you guys have some other questions, so I'll get to them in a second too. But I do want to look at the Bears. All right, the Bears and the Packers. I'm going to plug Jacobs in as a run back. I want to put Caleb Williams in the lineup. He's $5,600 and 1% owned. Here's what we got for wide receivers. Somebody has to have a decent game, I think, from the Bears pass catchers with Rome Odunze out. Relative to price tag, I mean. DJ Moore's $4,800. Luther Burden's $3,800. At tight end, you've got Colston Loveland at $3,200. You got Cole Kmet at $2,700. Let's try a double stack here. DJ Moore, Luther Burden with Caleb Williams. Josh Jacobs is a run back. I'm going to optimize around this. I just want to see who shows up in this lineup and how it ends up simming out, because I'm interested in the Bears as a very low-owned team. Caleb Williams, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, Michael Wilson, Luther Burden, DJ Moore. We did get Trey McBride in this lineup with Kenneth Walker and the Raiders defense. All right, I want to re-roll parts of this. Let's just re-roll the tight end, the flex, and the DST spot. Pitts. Then we got Bijan Robinson, James Cook, Commanders defense. All right, I like this. Let's see how this sims out. What does our data say about the Bears? Because I think this is a pretty good lineup to have built around a game stack there. All right, 15% sim ROI. It's probably going to be hard to get a Bears lineup that comes out all that much higher than that. What do we have here? We've got Phoenix Reeves. I feel like this is exactly the same as one from before, is it not? Oh, it's because I'm an idiot. It's the one I just plugged in. That's why it seems similar, because I just clicked on the same message twice in a row. All right. Jacob Dunn. Guillotine League, 1 QB PPR, start Mahomes or Jaden Daniels. Ooh. I'm going to say Mahomes. I don't think you can go wrong, but I'm going to say Mahomes. Let's see. Here's a Jaden Daniels lineup. Jaden Daniels with, who do you stack him with? McLaurin. Okay. Jaden Daniels coming back from injury. 9% owned, so people are playing him, but he's priced down to $6K. That's a lower than normal historical price for Jaden Daniels. Also, if you guys haven't done it yet, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would be very much appreciated. Yeah, Phoenix Reeves saying in chat that I did his. Yeah, that is my bad. That was me being a total donk here. HN and Cook. Then we've got in this lineup Higgins, Watson, McLaurin. In lineups that don't have Jamar Chase, I do think T. Higgins pretty good leverage / pivot option here. Save yourself some salary on a slate that doesn't have a ton of cost affordable options. And if T. Higgins ends up having 100 plus yards and a touchdown, maybe that takes away from Jamar Chase a little bit. So this is the first person who's built out a lineup that has T. Higgins and not Jamar Chase in a non-Joe Burrow lineup. And I do like that. I think it's an interesting way to build here. We've got Christian Watson. We've got Terry McLaurin. And, Darren Waller at tight end. How does Waller project for us? Not great, not terrible. 8.5 fantasy points at $3,800. It's viable. I don't think he'll single-handedly sink a lineup or anything like that. Luther Burden. And then the Titans defense. Just saving some salary by punting there. 2,900. All right, let's run this. Yeah, people in chat are asking about fan. Nothing I could do. I'm a negative 4.7% similar. I'm just answering your guys' questions. And so far, all the super chats have been DraftKings questions. All right, Andrew, let's rebuild this a little bit. Let's rebuild this a little. I'm going to take the Titans defense out. I'm going to take Waller out. And let's just complete it around these two players. See who shows up instead. We got the Commanders defense and Kyle Pitts. Super simple. Just did a 2v2 swap. Went from Darren Waller to Kyle Pitts, and then we also ended up swapping out the Titans defense for the Commanders. Let's see how this changes it. I think this will get us positive. Kyle Pitts is projecting for, all the way up to 51.3% from the -5 with minor changes there. I think that's a better look for you. All right. We've answered all of the outstanding super chats. People are asking about FanDuel lineups. I also want to get to FanDuel, but I'm just answering the questions that ended up showing up there in front of me. But let's go and look at FanDuel now. Who have we not built a we haven't built a lineup. I'm actually stunned this hasn't happened. We haven't gotten a single Josh Allen lineup yet. All the lineups we've built out, and none of them have had Josh Allen. Let's see if we can make a Josh Allen stack work. It is always tough to know who to have as a partner with them. I'm going to throw Shakira in the lineup, and then let's run it back with Jamar Chase. I also don't think it's the end of the world to have Josh Allen and James Cook in the same lineup. James Cook, if we look at his passing game work so far this year, look at the recent targets. 3 targets, 3 targets, 3 targets, 5 targets over the course of the last 4 games. It's not a massive amount, but how many of the pass catchers for the Bills are you that confident are going to get 3 to 5 targets? Like, is it that much different for James Cook relative to Shakir or any of the other guys? Like, Shakir, I do expect to get more passing game work, to be sure, than James Cook. But also, you look at his targets the last 3 games, 4, 10, and 3. So he did have the 10-target game against the Texans. But some of the other games, it was the same amount of work or comparable to what James Cook got. So it's always hard to know who to pair Josh Allen with, but he is the chalk at quarterback. So let's go Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir, Jamar Chase, and then who do we have as some of the top points per dollar plays that are a little bit cheaper? Let's go Kenneth Walker. Let's see, at wide receiver, we could get Michael Wilson at $5,700. We can get Jalen Waddle at wide receiver as well. I'll have to put him into the flex. All right, actually, let's just complete it around this. Let's see. We only have $5,800 left. We're able to fit in. All right, Genty showed up. I don't love it, but this is like the 3rd time that the Sims have given us Genty. The last time that I did a show where the Sims kept pushing Genty and I was trying to take him out of lineups, that was the game against I remember. It was the game against the Bears earlier on in the year. If you guys remember, I was doing the show, and every single lineup we were completing, and Genty was showing up at fairly low ownership. And I was trying to take him out of lineups. It kept giving me him, and I was like, all right, I guess we're just playing Ashton Genty this week. He ended up with 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't think that's going to happen against the Broncos again, but what am I going to do? I'm not going to keep fighting against our data on all the lineups it gives us here. Allen, Judkins, Genty, Jamar Chase, Michael Wilson, Khalil Shakir, Kyle Pitts, Kenneth Walker, Vikings defense. Let's see how this FanDuel lineup comes out. Let's see. Oh, all right. 117 sim ROI. Pretty good on the FanDuel side of things. Got some questions in Discord as well, so want to build out some of your guys' lineups. We've got Dazed. Appreciate me and my time today. What does this lineup sim at with either the final 2 picks or the optimizer? All right, so we gave a picture of the lineup in chat. So let's see. It is a Matt Stafford, Devontae Adams lineup. Stafford, okay. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't even have to plug this in. It's going to project poorly. It's Stafford, Christian Rodriguez, Neal, Luther Burden, Devontae Adams, Michael Wilson, Mark Andrews at tight end, and then he wanted to optimize around it. I guaranteed it's going to come out poor. I'll build it out anyway, just for the purpose of finishing it out here. But yeah, this is not going to sim out well. There's no way. It doesn't project well enough. You've got too many low-owned players with poor projections. Like Stafford Adams, that's fine. Michael Wilson, obviously, that's great. You've got in here Luther Burden, cool. I like him as a value option. You've got Mark Andrews at tight end. Fine. I'm not massively opinion on Mark Andrews in a positive or negative way, but this is going to be our lowest simmed lineup so far on the show. We'll finish it out. Yeah, negative 41.1% similar. Back to the drawing board. Just restart the lineup. Gonna have to redo it. Andrew Phillips, we've got another super chat from Andrew. So one thing, they're showing, some of the questions are showing up out of order for me in the StreamYard that I use here, which is making this a little confusing, but we already did Andrew's lineup there. All right, next question from Discord. We've got a lineup to build out here. It is from Shad. He wants, okay, so we left two lineups. It's very blurry. All right, so I'm going to read off these lineups as best as I could see them. We've got Josh Allen, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Michael Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, Alec Pierce, Dawson Knox, Josh Jacobs, Seahawks defense. As long as Dalton Kincaid plays, it's going to be hard for me to want to play Dawson Knox. So that's what I'll say about that lineup. The other lineup, I'll plug into the Sims here. We've got a Jacoby Brissett stack. Nobody's asked us about Jacoby Brissett yet, so we'll see how a lineup with him ends up coming out. We've got Brissett, James Cook. We've got Bucky Irving, Jamar Chase, Michael Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, Michael Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, and let's see, who else is in this? We got Brenton Strange, double tight end, Strange and Pitts. Strange and Pitts at the flex. And then you've got the Commanders defense. This lineup looks pretty solid to me. This will be our first run at seeing how Brissett lineups end up simming out for us. For the Bills stack, 38.8% similar solid. Jacoby Brissett stacks certainly look viable. Like I said, for the Josh Allen stack, I just wouldn't pair him with Dawson Knox, pending more news on Dalton Kincaid. Right now, we got the question before about Dalton Kincaid from Alex. I don't have a great read on what his workload is going to be. We also haven't gotten official confirmation he's going to be in, just that he's going to try to play. So I want a little bit more information there. But if we do get Kincaid starting, it's just going to be a really thin projection for Dawson Knox. Win. We've got a FanDuel lineup from Win. Here we go. For the people who are asking about FanDuel, we got a question here. We've got Win asking us to plug in a lineup on FanDuel with JT. I assume you mean Jonathan Taylor. Jay Johnson. Juwan Johnson. Is there any other? Just let me make sure that there's no other Jay Johnson. Yeah, it's got to be Juwan Johnson at tight end. Who else is in this lineup? Then he's also got, he's asking us a 3v3. All right, I misunderstood. He's asking Jonathan Taylor, Juwan Johnson in the Titans defense, or Bijan Robinson, Tyler Warren in the Vikings defense. I'm going to say the latter, but let's just plug this in the first one. Titans defense, and we'll just optimize around it and see what shows up. It's hard to say too. Like, I don't know who your stacking partners are or anything. I don't have that much context. But if I just optimize around these players you had in here, what shows up? Stafford, Cook, Taylor. Yeah, need a little bit more inputs just to know who would be the stacking partners and whatnot, but just like normal 3v3, the Bijan Robinson side. Then we've got Young Metro Boomin. He's got a FanDuel lineup for us too. Now we're getting the FanDuel lineups. Matt Stafford with James Cook. He's got Ashton Genty in here. All right, so we've got the Allen to Cook stack with Genty. And then we have Puka Nacua, Jacoby Myers. And who else? We've got Michael Wilson, Kyle Pitts. Okay, I'm liking this so far. Tight end Pitts. Then we've got RJ Harvey in flex. I'm cool with that too. And then while I said I don't love Genty, at least you do have a game stack here with Harvey and Genty both in the lineup. And then at defense, you plugged in the Saints. All right. For a Stafford lineup, I think this looks pretty solid. Now, how does it come out? Really well, 121.6% MR. Again, some high numbers on some of these FanDuel lineups. Commando said, can I check his lineup? I have no clue what your lineup is. I might have to do it after the show, Commando, because I don't know where it is in Discord. I'm scrolling. I just don't see it. All right, so let's answer the rest of these super chats, and then it's going to be time for the deep dive, guys. Ben, Raza, and Lofty. If you guys have not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're looking for bets for myself, Ben, Lofty, Eric, a bunch of the guys here at Stokastic, we're all posting free stuff over to Tails, and you guys get access to all of it either by downloading the Tails app or simply just going to tails.bet, just in your search bar, tails.bet, and you're going to find a ton of free content there. You could sort it by league. You could sort it by different trending topics we have based on what's popular. Go check it out. And if you are enjoying your Tails experience, do us another favor and just leave a 5-star review. It is going to take you guys 15 seconds to just tap 5 stars. And if you guys like the app and want to see us add more to the app, leave us that 5-star review. It goes a long way. It is massively helpful for us, and we do appreciate it. All right, what do we have here for more questions? We've got Miami Mike. Miami Mike has got a lineup for us here. It is Jacoby Brissett double stack. Okay, we've not done a Jacoby Brissett double stack with Cook and Judkins. Cook, Judkins. Now at wide receiver, we have Wilson, Watson, and Vele. Okay. It would help if I spelled Wilson correctly. Wilson. I'm surprised how many people are playing Christian Watson. I don't even have an issue with Christian Watson. He's been in like 50% of the lineups that we've built out here for some reason, though. And one's not an... lots of upside there. High ADOT. He's going to get targets downfield. He's just overrepresented in the lineups that you guys have built out. So maybe he's going to end up being more popular than the 10% projected ownership. McBride, and then who'd you have at flex? Strange in the Browns defense. Okay. Browns defense. Let's see how this one comes out. One thing that is fun about lineups like this, where there's no real condensed chalk, is that we built out so many different stack types today to get an idea of how they ended up simming out. Made for a good way to look at the slate. Just 12% sim ROI in this one. I do think that the Vele, yeah, I think if we took out like Vele and Watson, maybe changed it to like Luther Burden or something. Let's see. What if we make this a single stack? What if we do a single stack with Wilson? Burden, Pitts, Strange. Let's see how this comes out instead. Just made that change. Trey McBride at 8K is just going to be a little tough. 38.5% similar, or a really similar looking one here from Rocky Crabtree. Rocky has got, all right, Brissett, Cook, Achane instead of Judkins. And then you've got at wide receiver, Adonai Mitchell there. Okay. So we've got Mitchell. So this will be another opportunity to try to make a double stack work with Trey McBride. Let's see if this one comes out better with Adonai Mitchell and Luther Burden. I think there's a good chance it will. Michael Wilson, McBride, Loveland. Okay, Loveland at flex. Am I missing? It seems like it leaves a lot of salary. Brissett, Cook, Achane, Adonai Mitchell, Michael Wilson, Luther Burden. Oh, because it still is Kyle. Okay, because I'm an idiot. That's the answer to most questions when something isn't going right. It's just that I have made an error on something really simple. Like I accidentally plug in the same lineup twice in a row, and then I get confused why it looks similar. There we go. Let's complete it around here. All right, another attempt to make a Jacoby Brissett double stack lineup with Trey McBride and his costly salary. This one came out better, 42.4% sim ROI. All right, so if you go really cheap with 2 punt wide receivers, although Adonai Mitchell isn't really a punt anymore, still cheap though, $4,600 and Luther Burden. So if you go 2 cheap wide receivers and double tight end, then it makes the Trey McBride lineup work a little bit better. What do we have here? D-Logs. Is there a question here? Let me see if I can find something in chat from you, Mr. Log. Okay. Oh, here. You left a follow-up. There we go. D-Log. Here we go. Final one, and then we're going to hand it over to the deep dive guys in Lofty and Ben. So do me a favor here, guys. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is going to be the final lineup that we build out on the show before passing it over to the deep dive. Tyler Shuck. James Cook, Bucky Irving. A lot of pressure here on you, D-Logs. We got to finish on a high note. James Cook, Bucky Irving. All right, so Irving is the run back with the Shuck stack. Jamar Chase. We've got Vele. We've got AD. Is that Adonai Mitchell? Am I forgetting somebody here? Who would AD be? Lofty or Ben, help me out. Who am I forgetting here? Who would AD be?
Probably AD Mitchell.
Think it's Adonai Mitchell too? All right. Adonai Mitchell. We've got Juwan Johnson for the double stack. If the salary doesn't end up working out here, it's like well under, then it's because he meant somebody else. Yeah, okay. So we've got Judkins. And okay, cool. The salary works. So that it was Adonai Mitchell. All right, let's see. Final lineup. How is it going to go? D-Log's lineup here. 19.9% sim ROI. There we go. Positive one to finish out with. There we go. One final question here that we did get from Jordan. This isn't a lineup to build out, but it's just a general question. So I could certainly answer this one. He wants to know, what is my overall preferred QB plus stack? So it's going to be different slate to slate. It's not like I go into it being like, I have to build single stacks or double stacks or triple stacks. But more often than not, the highest percentage of my lineups are allocated to QB plus 2 stacks. Every slate's a little bit different, but more often than not, QB plus 2 is what I have the most exposure to. And guys, that is going to do it for my portion of the show. Thank you very much for watching, but do not go anywhere. We've got 3 more hours of football coverage coming up. Stick around.
Hey, hello, welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive. Week 14. 5 of these to go in the regular season, and I'm not sure week 18 even counts. I have petitioned here at Stokastic for us to do as many hours as we typically do, maybe even start at 9. Do 1 hour for the, or 1.5 hours for the main slate, the full slate, 1 hour for the early slate. We could do a lineup building and then have somebody come in around 3 o'clock and do an hour show for the afternoon slate as well. Ben, it may sound crazy, but sometimes those things work. Honestly, when you're talking, and if they don't have a Sunday night game, like if there's no scenarios where, because I'm pretty sure sometimes they do that, right? Like sometimes they'll have a Sunday night game if it's, remember the one year it was Packers and Lions, and they put it on Sunday. They do that often, but other times I don't think they do if there's nothing significant enough to do it.
We're talking about week 18.
I'm saying in week 18 we should have like an early slate show and an afternoon slate show, and of course your typical main slate show.
Okay, maybe we'll make that happen if we get to 1,000 likes today. We'll do it.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think people would. I would like that personally.
Okay. Well, hit the like now. We only need $9.99. If the people speak, we can be convinced of anything around here. I just don't know if there's an appetite for all that football, but
there is.
We'll see. Okay.
In fairness, if we want to do it, we'll just do it.
Okay, fine. We'll do it. You don't even need to hit the like button. Forget it. You don't even need to watch.
No, but definitely hit the like button.
Yeah, come on now. No, listen, week 18, I don't know. That's always tough. It's a long season. Teams are resting, blah, blah, blah. But we got some time before that. I mean, obviously there's teams eliminated, but most teams, they have something to play for in week 14, which is beautiful.
Anyway, good morning. Glad to have you guys here. Hey, we should be elsewhere on a Sunday. As a matter of fact, my wife and the kids are at church today. And I'm here, which means I've already atoned. So take a single second this morning, atone for your sins, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Nope, don't do that. God, I got to get out of that habit of just saying the same thing.
Just hit the like button.
Just have to say every time. God, I suck at this.
And Van.
I suck at this. Ken says, please don't do that. Sounds stupid. Why? Ken, now I'm going to only, now the whole show is just going to be afternoon. Not even going to do a main slate. Anyway, glad to have you guys here. Atone this morning. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way. We appreciate you for this, as always. And we got 11 games to jump into, man. There's a few that are pretty ugly, but that actually, oddly enough, still have some pieces. Like you're talking about Judkins in a 33.5 point total game, right? All of these games, even this Broncos-Rams game. Last time I ran the Sims.
Raiders, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, Broncos-Raiders. Yeah, sorry. I got the RA right.
It's close.
Yeah. And had it been a couple years ago, they both would have been in California too. So you understand the mess up there. But Broncos Raiders, that's a 40-point total, but a 7.5 point spread, which means the implied total on the Raiders is pretty low. We're still getting some pieces of them today, which actually surprised me a little bit.
Well, I surprised myself this morning because I need that game pretty badly. Both sides of it. What'd you say?
For what?
For DFS, I'm overweight to both the Broncos and the Raiders, and I did not expect that.
Really? And it is, by the way, it is inside for what it's worth. Like there are some kind of nasty outdoor games today, which people always ask us, do the projections factor in weather? Are we fading this game for weather? Yeah, I mean, the projections are very clearly factoring in all of that stuff and the totals. And the totals are factoring in the weather. So it's all just the trickle down there. And yes, if you look at the Buffalo game, still a 53.5 point total there, despite the possibility of like 1 to 3 inches of snow. You're not getting this like 6 feet of lake effect snow like we've seen in the past with the crazy winds. I think for the most part, Ben, unless there's anything you want to talk about before we dive into this first game, I think we're okay. There's no doubt it's going to be cold in Green Bay. But these are two NFC North teams, both of which play outside all of the time. Like this is nothing new here. So I'm not super concerned. The total came down a little bit, but it's still in the mid 40s. So again, nothing that tips me off is like, do I have to fully fade that game today?
No. Again, the totals tell the tale. I'm not super worried about it. I'm not building with weather in mind, mostly because, and there's a correlation to this in general. Teams that play in nasty weather, a lot of them are kind of optimized to not have prolific offenses anyway. So, like, yes, Cleveland and Tennessee could be in a dome, and I'm not sure I would be super interested, like, just by the nature of how those teams are constructed. But it's good. Bring up the bar on the bottom.
Don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. I have this all planned out.
Okay,
man.
fine. You don't tell me what we're doing, and I'm just left in the dark.
I appreciate the eagerness to do so, but I can assure you, behind the scenes, this is a well-oiled machine. Until it's not.
I'm with you guys. I'm just along for the ride, apparently, just watching you work.
Until it's not. And then when something gets messed up, I'll go, dude, you couldn't have just thrown that on the screen.
Yeah, when you freeze and then I don't know how to get the thing and I'm just here juggling, it's going to be quite a show.
All right. How you feeling this morning, though? You feeling good?
All right. I'm tired. I stayed up to watch my man Peter Yan get it done last night. I got my ass kicked in college football, so we're going to need to recoup those losses. But I feel good. I broke it down. I found some weird anytime touchdown scores that I put on tails already.
Oh, I got a weird one too.
I got a real weird one in my parlay today, so I'm excited.
All right, we'll talk about it when we get there. I'll do the same with mine, because so do I. I had people literally because I posted it on Twitter and on Tails, and they're like, "Yeah, I was right there with you up until I saw the last one." So
I have a random. There's no chance it's the same person, but it would be a hell of a story if it was.
Well, mine's plus 320. It's not insane.
No, neither's mine. Mine's plus 380. I want to say.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited to see what it is when we get there. Let's talk Seattle and Atlanta. First game up out of the 11 today. And then, of course, 11:30, we turn this over to Spags and Eric. They'll take you all the way up until lock. We don't have a ton of pending news right now, right? Not a ton. But the Dalton kid, is anything more annoying than a guy going, I was laying in bed last night reading these Schefter tweets as they came in, and it's like, Dalton Kincaid says he will attempt to try to maybe play. And it's like, come on, dude. Can't stand that shit. But anyway, we've got the Seattle and Atlanta spot. It's anywhere from a 6.5 to 7 point spread on this one in Atlanta. So you're getting, no elements whatsoever, Ben. And that's an advantage here for sure. There's 6.5 point, like I said, the 7 point favorites coming off a game last week where Seattle was really disappointing. Like, not if you're a Seattle fan, you don't care. You won 26-0. Your defense was dominant. Max Brosmer, I was wrong, can in fact be worse than JJ McCarthy. So I'll take that back. Although McCarthy may have actually been just as bad in that game, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. But looking at our Seattle exposure, I ran the Sims. When we do get an update, of course, I will run another update and let you guys know. But if you guys are Sims users, we get questions like, yo, why haven't we updated? Don't worry about any of this. Like, mess around, get your ideas. I don't worry about anything until the 12 Eastern update comes through, once we get the 11:30 inactives. Because aside from that, you're going to be rerunning it anyway.
Yep. We were just talking about this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, on a main site, you never want to set and forget your lineups like the night before or the morning of. It could work, sure, but there's always news that you have to account for.
Yep. We just saw this actually on Thursday with St. Brown. Mm-hmm. And it was, I love our approach, which is, let's get it accurate and get it up and posted rather than throw something out and then you have to adjust again. And then you have to adjust again. And everything you're doing is completely washed away as these pieces come out. So until we get some of those building blocks, you kind of have a baseline and then it updates and you're good to go. But you don't want to be building blindly because you're just not playing with all the latest information. And that's a huge disadvantage.
Do we want to go back to Darnold this week? Or I'm sorry, Kenneth Walker. Last week, 2 weeks ago, I said I must have been a week early. Last week was tough, man. Like, last week sucked. And then, of course, Zach Charbonnet breaks the 20-plus yard touchdown run. It was just the way things had to go at that point. I mean, he's 22. We're getting 22% of him right now. I don't think it's crazy, honestly. I feel like Kenneth Walker eventually is going to have that game. He's still a mid 5K price point. It's definitely gross, I think, to a lot of people because he is, to some extent, still very much in a timeshare of a backfield, but they're also touchdown favorites in a game that I might be on an island here. The Atlanta Falcons, as gross as this team is, and as wrong as I've been on them all year, keep that in mind as I say this. There's always the possibility that they can kind of push teams to keep producing. Like, they always have that potential. Even with Cousins and no Drake London today, there's still a part of me that goes, hey, you know what? Atlanta might be able to score 3 touchdowns in this game and keep it somewhat competitive. And if that's the case, then I start to like these Seattle guys a lot more. If they can't, I probably still like them. I actually like Darnold to bounce back in this spot where it's not Minnesota and Max Brosmer. As bad as the Falcons are, this is not Minnesota playing in Seattle with a quarterback that was, an undrafted quarterback.
Yeah, they should be pushed certainly a little more here, and Falcons have their own issues. It's not scientific, but the honest truth is when the Falcons seem like they'll never win again, they look fantastic. And when they seem like they might win the South, they lose by like 40 points to bad teams. Yep. That's just the way they are. But for us here, Kenneth Walker, I'm fine going back to him. JSN is JSN. Like week to week, I don't really consider him in the sense of if you have money, he's a great player. Like he's always live for $1.50 and 2. I'm not really looking to the stack. I mean, if I get a little Darnold +2 or something like that, I'm fine with it. But for me, it's a piece here, a piece there. And honestly, I'm going to almost mirror what I'm saying right now to Atlanta. It's going to be a piece here or a piece there of both sides of this game.
Yeah. I could see, the tough part about Darnold is if you're stacking him. Actually, I don't think it is that tough. Well, maybe I want to say like JSN and AJ Barner. Which, by the way, you may not like A.J. Barner kind of at face value here, but if you dig in a little bit deeper, the tight end position's not great today, Ben. Like it's not that good. So, you have Brock Bowers against Denver that held him to 1 reception last game. Mind you, Surtain wasn't even playing that time, and now he's back. He shadowed him last year in their second meeting after Brock Bowers got the best of him in their first. Then you've got like Warren, I think Warren's in a good spot. We'll talk about that game in a second. Or in a little bit, but like Warren, sure. McBride, I know Harrison's out, but that's a tough matchup. He's $8,000 now. That is a hefty price point to pay for anybody at this stage of the game. I guess the tough part isn't whether I want to get to JSN or AJ Barner. I think both of them are fine, and those are our 2 highest exposed pass catchers for Seattle. It's more so like, does Rashid Shaheed get involved finally? Does Cooper Kupp, who pops up once in a while, does he get involved? It's kind of JSN and then everybody else. That's the problem.
Yeah, and that's, again, why to me it's more the pieces than the entire puzzle with Seattle, because it seems like guys like Cooper Kupp and Shaheed are reasonable to factor into the game, but somewhat unreasonable to actually play. Right. So what do you do with that? Like, are you really going to attach them to a Darnold stack? Maybe in large field tournaments, but if you don't, and then they have a decent game, it erodes what you're probably doing a little with JSN and Barner. So that's where it's tricky, to me at least.
Yeah, Ben. Lofty Ben Affleck called he wants his hairpiece back. I don't even understand that one, brother.
I have a more important question because I don't know the answer to this, but friend of the show.
You just go on the YouTube app.
Just go on the YouTube app. See, Lofty knows these things. That's why he gets to control the bottom bar and I don't.
Just go on just pull the YouTube app up. It'll give you your yearly recap. That's literally all you open the app and it'll say, do you want to see your yearly recap? And you select yes. That's all.
All right.
Yeah. So I'd love to. Rashid Shaheed's burned me a lot trying to play that guy, thinking, hey, high-powered offense. Darnold's been great on the deep ball. It just happens to be JSN every week or the defense. Defense. So I like this team, Ben, but I'm with you. I don't think I'm going to live or die by Seattle today. And I hate to be like wishy-washy here, but I definitely want some Kenneth Walker, some Barner, and definitely some JSN. JSN at 14% actually seems like he's underowned.
Yeah, I mean, again, because it's a tough price point, and most of the time, honestly, JSN, even with some effective games, he's going to be, if it's a high scoring slate, it could be an underwhelming piece. There's not a ton of value out there. Like, I didn't find an abundance of value, which furthers the strain, but it's still JSN. He's one of, a handful of players across the league that week in and week out, he could always be the highest scoring player on any slate. That's just a fact.
And has been a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. And this game, again, it's a 44-point total. It's not nothing, right? Like going up last week against Minnesota, I honestly feel like looking back that I made a mistake there and just should have anticipated it going the way it did. Like there was no way Max Brosmer was going to, and I know hindsight's 2020, but like that he was just going to drive them down the field against Seattle.
Yeah, mistakes were made in that game on multiple fronts.
Anyway, let's take a look at Atlanta. Look at that Kyle Pitts exposure, man. I'll say this much. I'll say this. All right, it's gross. Seattle's one kind of weakness has actually been the tight end position this year. They've really struggled against tight ends. They have. And at Kyle, do I want 40% Kyle Pitts? Probably not. But I mean, we still have him as a pretty popular tight end option. And I'll say it again. Atlanta is at home. He had a good game last week too, right? Like 7 for 85 or something in that range.
Yeah, he was fine.
He had a pretty good game. No Drake London. I mean, like, I don't feel good about it at all, but tight end's weak and they are at home. You're playing in a dome. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Kyle Pitts. Someone DM me today, Lavi, tell the Sims to stop jamming Pitts. You can always get negative ROI boost, or you can always cap his exposure. That's the easiest way to do it. But I'm going to see what the next run of projections and ownership looks like. Then I'll decide if I want 40%. But I'm not going to just be capping him down to 10% today. I really think the tight end position's weak enough to where at 4,200, you don't need an explosive game from Pitts to get you there.
No, you definitely don't need an explosive game. He's a reasonable salary. He's in a good game script. They should be throwing. You mentioned no London. Bijan can only do so much. And listen, you can spin anything anyway to kind of make your points with these things. But you look at Kyle Pitts, the guy's operating with no touchdown equity. And that doesn't mean, I don't think that prevents him from scoring. I just mean, if you look at his results,
yeah, it's tough.
He has 1 touchdown. So it's like, how many ceiling games did you want to see? Now, if he can find the end zone and there's some positive regression, he is clearly undervalued. And I think I'm always team that touchdowns are somewhat random. You know, there's obviously a correlation, but there's a lot of variance in who actually scores. And I don't think anything prevents Kyle Pitts from scoring.
Well, let's think of it this way, right? And I know this is kind of what you're saying. You would agree that, I know you just said it in a way, but you would agree that touchdowns is a really volatile stat.
Super. Look at Trey McBride. He couldn't score. He could not score. And then he scores. I remember when Julio, for people who've been playing for a while, Julio Jones had a streaks where he couldn't score.
Right.
He couldn't score. And then he started scoring at will. It's very high volatility, like you said.
The reason I mentioned that is because he's playing 95% of snaps without London and running routes on 91% of dropbacks. So at the very least, whether you love or hate Kyle Pitts, I assume most of you hate him. I think I do too. I'm not even sure at this point. Right. But he's going to be on the field for essentially every offensive play. And if that's the case, Ben, he could just fall into the end zone. At 4,200, it's hard to find guys who are, you could argue Pitts is the primary pass catching weapon without Drake London. I think he is actually. So that's why we're getting some of him. Beyond that, I don't think I'm paying for Bijan. I don't love Darnell Mooney. It really does feel like Kyle Pitts would be the one guy I want to get to for Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, he's far and away the guy I'm most interested in. Bijan is in the category of he's always playable because he's just an electric player. I don't think this is the prime spot to get to him, but it's still Bijan. That's about all I have, though.
Me too. What do we want to do with the Miami Dolphins here? Heading to East Rutherford, taking on the Jets, divisional spot. The Jets, don't look now, 3 of their last 5 games have been wins. Was it you the other day that said that's just what the Jets do? Was that you? I can't remember. No.
But I agree with that.
But it is. Yeah. I think it was Andy Francis, actually. That's just what they do. They lose like 7 straight to open the season. It's over. And then they'll rattle off like 5 wins in 7 games. I'm looking at Miami exposure here, though. The one guy I'm genuinely surprised we're not getting well over the field on is Devon Achane. Like, we're getting slightly over the field right now, looking at the pool ownership in this previous Sims run I did, and maybe that'll change around noon. But he's just so heavily involved all of the time that all right, last week, for example, he didn't have a single reception. They were at home against the Saints. that game looks a little closer than it was, right? At one point, it felt like they were always up by what? At least 2 scores in that game. At least it felt like the Saints were never really in arm's reach. And Devon Achane did not have a single reception on one target, but he had 22 carries for 134 yards. Like, they're just going to make him a focal point of the offense every single week. And going into this game against the Jets in a divisional spot, it feels like Devon Achane just keeps getting work. Now, I know his price has come up, and that actually that's a sensible argument, because you have James Cook, who I think is $1,000 cheaper than him today at home against Cincinnati, right? Yeah, yep. 7,800. You have Josh Jacobs in a cold weather game as a touchdown favorite, who is $2,000 less expensive than him. So I don't think this is an indictment on Achane at all. We're still getting 22%. We're still over the field. I think it's more so that some of these other guys at discounted price points in really good spots, who are also workhorse running backs, are just showing up more today.
Yeah, again, I think it speaks to the slate as a whole. There's not a ton of value out there. If you pay for Achane, you're not getting to some of these other players out there. That makes it tricky. Having said that, friend of the show and super chat extraordinaire Goody was saying the game does look interesting. I actually agree with this. I think there's some, I'm not sure I'll have a ton of primary stacks, but as you call them secondary stacks, I call them twists. Having like a Achane Mitchell or a Mechie Wall, whatever combination you want to do. I don't think I'll get to Tua. You've got the 3 players right there. I like them in that order. I'd rather, if I had to take one Dolphin, it would be Achane. If I want to be a little different, it would be Waddle on the outside. If you want to mix it up at tight end, Waller, but we just talked about Kyle Pitts, and there's a numerous amount of guys in that same price point I like more than Waller. So for Miami, that's what I'm doing. I'm very, very close to mirroring exactly what's on our screen.
Yeah, me too. Is it a ugly 40.5 point total? Sure. But I don't know how much does it really matter at this point, right? And here's why I say that. You look at Mechie's price point, you look at obviously Adonai Mitchell's price point. We can talk about them. Even Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller is perfectly reasonable today. Tua Tagovailoa, when Waller's been healthy, that's been his first look once they get inside the red zone. Darren Waller's been his first look, right? And you've seen it. What does he have? Like 6 touchdowns in the 5 games he's played or something like that? It's pretty ridiculous. So if I'm looking at a low total, I know you'll agree with me here. You don't have to, but I'm pretty confident you will. A lot of these guys are so cheap outside of Devon Achane, of course. And Breece Hall's not that cheap, but he's also not super expensive for a clear bell cow back. And I'll throw it up on the screen right now. That a low total is a little bit less concerning to me when so much of that is baked into these price points.
Yeah. I mean, again, it has to, you have to back out what you really need these guys to do. And the touchdown equity is lower in this game, but the bar to clear is also lower. Like anyone on the Jets, if they score a single touchdown, it's almost impossible for them to have an awful game at that point. Like we're not talking about JSN where it's like, 6 for 75 and a touchdown. That's not even close to getting it done. Mitchell, Mechie, Breece Hall to the lesser extent, but even him, if these guys even have a couple of opportunities in the red zone, that's almost enough to justify it. So you could be a little sneaky and go to Tyrod. He's obviously cheap. He's sub 5K quarterback. You have easy stacking partners. I think the more prudent move is just to take a jet here or there, independent of the game.
So question, this is kind of a fun question. Dirt McGirt 69. What's the temperature? 2 is 0-8 and 40 degrees and colder, but is also 7-0 versus the Jets. I'm going to tell you something, man. Like, to me, this is possibly the most misleading stat. I don't buy it. Last year on Thanksgiving, it was freezing cold in Green Bay. It was super cold, and they lost. But Tua was in Tua was in Millie winning lineups along with Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, and Jonnu Smith. I don't know. Is he 0-8 because, here you go. Ready? So they lost 56-26 to the Bills in January one year, and Tua threw for 361 yards. He got picked off a bunch, but again, to act like he just freezes up and is no longer competent of throwing the football, I have trouble believing that, Ben. I've seen spots with Tua, like okay, sure, that Kansas City game at Arrowhead where they were urging people not to play because they were going to lose their limbs from frostbite. I'm willing to give him a bit of a pass there. I think it's 40 degrees in New York or in New Jersey. That's not that cold.
Yeah, it has no effect on anything. Maybe in the betting markets, if you want to run with that angle, I still think that that's somewhat far-fetched. Clearly, teams, we see this, like Tampa could never win in the cold. It's hard to win not in your elements, but it doesn't preclude him for having an effective DFS game. That's for sure.
Right.
Because he's already done that.
Now, that isn't to say that I love Tua today. He's not one of my
I don't like Tua.
But I'm not thinking they're going to go down 50-0. I mean, it is the Jets. This game could stay competitive. If I'm looking at this, look, I like Devon Achane. I like Devin. I like Waller. I like Darren Waller a little bit. I think he probably gets slept on, doesn't get a ton of ownership. It's not a great Jets defense. They sold off a lot of their best players. And then Breece Hall, AD Mitchell. The only spot I'd like to get up on a little bit, Ben, is John Mechie. I tweeted it this morning. I feel like we may run into a situation where Mechie and Mitchell just trade off weeks and it becomes a poor man's version of the Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley situation back when they were in Atlanta and nobody can get it right because they just chased the previous week. Adonai Mitchell's had one good game. And before that, John Mechie had a really good game. And then both of them had bad games when the other one had a good game. So I don't know how much I want to read into one game. I like AD Mitchell today, but I think John Mechie's almost as good as him, honestly, at a basically identical price point.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw the zig the other way where Mechie had scored a couple games in a row and Mitchell turned out to be the play. So, yeah, again, it goes back to what we were just talking about. Touchdowns, not super indicative of someone more, like scoring doesn't make you more likely to score.
No, Mitchell scored one while sitting down in the end zone last week.
We'll see if he can replicate that. Yeah.
Saints, Tampa Bay, Bucks. All right. So no Alvin Kamara, no surprise, right? I mean, this guy, I don't know how much gas is left in the tank there, if we're being honest. I thought we'd get a little bit more earlier in the week. It definitely appears that the sims and the projections have cooled on this Saints team a little bit. And I'll be honest, I'm not all that disappointed to see this. It's a divisional spot, which, typically I'm willing to look at this in one of two ways. Like you could just see a blowout, or you could see it be an oddly competitive spot where, like, because it's a divisional game, the Saints just come in there and compete. But with Tyler Shuck, does he have a little rushing upside? Sure. But you saw a good game out of, I know you had a bunch of Devon Vele last week. Chris Olave is expected to be active, but he's up to 6,500 now. And in fairness, it's still with a pretty bad quarterback. Say what you want. Jawan Johnson at 4K is fine because once again, the tight end position is rough. This is I can tell you right now, this is a spot where I'm just going to sprinkle these guys in. But I'd like to get your opinion on both sides of this, Ben. So I'm just going to go over to Tampa Bay real quick. The Tools really do like Baker today, and they don't like Bucky Irving. I'm a little bit different there, where I do like Bucky Irving getting 17 rush attempts after missing 2 calendar months, and Todd Bowles saying he was going to be worked slowly into the offense, and it turns out that he gets like 90% of the running back touches last week in a home game against Arizona. There's a part of me that thinks they just believe Bucky Irving is much better than Tucker and Rashad White, and he's going to have the lion's share of touches again today. And if that's the case, I know he's a little bit expensive, but I like Bucky a little bit more than the Tools do. And the only thing I don't like, it does seem that he's going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, which on one hand, I was a little surprised. On the other hand, it makes sense. Healthy favorite at home. Volume will be there. Price isn't obscene. And yeah, this is a weird game. So it definitely could crawl. I also think Tampa has, particularly in these divisional games, particularly in the South, where the teams, it's usually better weather and whatnot. There's a lot of crazy Tampa runouts where the game goes over the total by like 20 points.
Right.
We've
They've
seen
got
that a
the
lot.
Seattle game earlier this year.
It's happened again, they get into really wild game scripts. So I do have some interest in a full onslaught, like a Baker +2 with a run back, or Baker +2 even with a couple of cheap run backs, because the Saints guys are really, really inexpensive. If you're talking about Juwan Johnson or Vele, if you go to the backfield, anyone you pick is going to be relatively cheap. And even on Tampa's side, the most logical stack is going to be Baker, obviously Ibuka. You could go either skinny or just, plus one more with Otten or Godwin, or you could go Bucky and really change it up and really kind of consolidate all the touchdown equity. I like the game. I don't know how you confidently deploy anything, though, having said that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of those.
Another thing I don't love is I was tracking this throughout the week. Tristan Wirfs he popped up on the injury report with an oblique injury, and he's a big piece of that offensive line. Like I metaphorically and literally, you need a guy like that out there. Bucky Irving has not had a healthy O-line in any games he's played this season, outside of maybe last week. But if it's not Wirfs, it's Gedeke. It's always somebody that they're missing. I don't love that he's not expected to play today. I know it's just one piece. I totally get that. And Baker's been pretty good at evading pressure, and he is running more. I've been betting the over on his rushing props every week because he literally said, I have to run more, and he has been. But that's one spot I'm not in love with. So maybe I cool on Bucky a little bit there. I was hoping Wirfs would be active. Aside from that, the one thing I don't love, and before we move on to this next game, get your thoughts, and you guys in chat as well. What do you guys do? And Ben, what do you do with the fact that Chris Godwin, we're not getting any of him, but Chris Godwin is still a reliable receiver in this offense. Like if you talk about the rapport that Mayfield has with him it's a significant, this is significant. And he came back 2 weeks ago against the Rams. It's no wonder they used him sparingly. He was out a significant amount of time. They were down by 100 at halftime. What's the point? And then last week, you saw him, while he saw fewer targets than Emeka Ibuka, he was still more efficient, still broke off, I think it was like 225-plus yard receptions in that game. And once again, okay, Chris Godwin's still here is what I'm saying. You're not going to have Mike Evans today. McMillan's still not back. But it's Ibuka, it's Cade Otton, who's been wildly underwhelming. You still have pass-catching running backs, and now you have Chris Godwin. You have guys like Tez Johnson. This team, I really have not enjoyed stacking them this year as compared to other years where I felt like it was way easier to get those pieces right.
Yeah, it's definitely not a simple process. It's just that, again, Tampa has upside where Baker, and listen, it's 8.5-point spreads, so take it for what it's worth, but Baker has shown the game can devolve and they can really try to have to throw the ball quite a bit. Now, the schedule for Tampa, I think, has been borderline absurd. If you look at their struggles, they've played elite teams a lot on the road. Then they got a reprieve last week, and they got it done. It wasn't the most pretty performance against Arizona. This is more in the reprieve section at home against the Saints. So we'll see how that reflects in what actually happens. But I don't think you want to ignore Tampa. It's just not my favorite team either, though. I have stacks that I like more than Tampa today.
Plan B smoothie. Shout out to me and happy birthday, Laffy. Yes, thank you, sir. Not my birthday once again, but he will keep this bit alive until we are no longer around. But thank you. All right, favorite plays from this game.
It would be Ibuka and honestly probably Vele still.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. We'll talk about the Bears receivers, but if you need a sub 4, him or John Johnson, I think it's kind of just dealer's choice, but you've got Pitts right there, and that makes it a little tougher.
Are you okay stacking the Bucs, though?
Yes. I'm not going to stack the Saints, but I will stack. I will have full onslaught Tampa teams.
Will you have +3s?
No, I don't think so, but I will. I don't want to speak in absolutes. I'd say there's an extremely high chance that I'll have Baker, Bucky, and Ibuka together, though.
Okay, so not like an onslaught, but basically getting a piece of every part of the offense.
I consider that more onslaught because you're sucking up all the salary. Like, to me,
true. Okay, that's fair.
Bucky in there, that's worth Otten and Godwin almost.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Indy and Jacksonville. Here we go, man. I've been waiting to talk about this game. I look forward to the disagreements in chat. And if you guys disagree, throw it out there. We welcome it. And then you can talk shit after the game if I'm wrong, because I don't accept it if you only do it after the game, but don't voice your opinion beforehand. Otherwise, I mean, what type of self-respecting man would do that? So I like Daniel Jones this week. And I assume most people are going to hate Daniel Jones this week because he's playing with a broken fibula. There's a part of me that looks at this game, though, and says, all right, so he went up against Houston last week. It's the best defense in the league right now. And he wasn't even that bad. Like, he threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 201 passing yards. But, I mean, we saw what they did to Josh Allen. We see what they're doing to pretty much everybody they face. Prior to that, it was in Arrowhead against Kansas City in a must-win game. 181, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 3 rushing attempts, 16 yards. He's had a lot of games, though, where he hasn't needed to run this year. And I assume he's not nearly as mobile with this injury. I don't know how much of it is due to the injury either, though, because he hasn't been playing with it all year, and he has plenty of games where he hasn't done that. I look at a Tyler Warren at a 5K or whatever, Alec Pierce at the 5K range, Pittman, divisional spot against what has been a pass funnel defense for the Jaguars, a Jaguars team that many times has gone up and forced teams to throw and ended up losing those games, or just you can't run on the Jags. Jonathan Taylor's a different story. That's not lost on me. Jonathan Taylor can break any narrative and take any run pass funnel defense and make them super vulnerable on the ground. But I'm gonna get to some Daniel Jones this week, and the Sims really don't like him. I don't need to get to much to get over the field. He is currently projected for 3% ownership, Ben, and that is why in a divisional spot in this game, where the weather last time I looked should not be an issue at all. A little bit of rain showers, but that means nothing with 63-degree temperatures, 0 wind. Yeah, I'll have some Daniel Jones.
Yeah, listen, taking stands is the way to do it. Like, if you get that right, you are going to benefit because people are not going to be on there. I'm not playing Daniel Jones.
Yep. Most people aren't, I don't think.
No, that's the whole concept of leverage. You're probably not going to get that right too often, but when you do, you're not going to have that many people moving up the standings with you. And so it's interesting. The Colts are so tough because of you have Jonathan Taylor that casts such a wide shadow.
Yep.
And friend of the show, Tom Chambers was saying, feels like a JT smash at 93. It's so hard because you're drawing to multiple touchdowns. That's the only way to get there with him. I like him more than the last 2 weeks, but that's not really saying much. I didn't even consider him in those weeks. I'm not sure I'll play him. I'm at least considering it here, but it's just really difficult. I respect the Jags. If I had to play one guy from this team, it would be Tyler Warren, just to be a little different at tight end. I think that's a pretty fair price, but the way they're constructed, it's not the most appealing team on the slate. They're a good team in general, but in what I think could be somewhat nasty weather, not that that's why I'm not playing these guys, it's just not the best environment with the price points.
It's definitely going to rain.
Yeah.
But there's also no wind at all.
No, I mean, there are worse things than rain for sure.
Yeah, like this total has come down, like I think a point since I last looked at it. So, factor that in, of course. All right, but what about then like Warren at a weak tight end spot? Guy has pretty decent touchdown equity. We know Jones likes him in the red zone. Alec Pierce being another guy there. What's so funny?
A good guy, your boy, Bo, just gave a funny super chat.
Man, thank you to Tails. Cast over. Should I be reading it out loud?
Yeah, it's debatable, but yeah.
Cast over 400 using free Missouri money. That's what I'm talking about, man.
Smart man.
That's what I'm talking about. Bo's swimming in women like a backward stud when he pulls his roll out now. Thanks for real. The real Bo. Sorry, I botched that reading it out loud, but I was trying to read ahead just in case. Awesome, man. Congrats. And if you're not on Tails yet, what are you waiting for, man? It's a great place to be right now.
What are you waiting for, honestly?
I'm serious. Yeah, I posted a pretty wild Sunday prayer.
I saw that. I have
50
not tailed it yet, but I have to.
Taylor, I'm gonna
Go
go
on.
over there and tail your play right now as well. What are we at? Let me see here. Did you post it?
Yeah,
Oh, Pat Bryant. That's
Yeah.
who it is.
Yeah, how obscene is that?
You like Pat Bryant?
I like the number on him. I think they're going to have good touchdown equity. I love Jefferson today. Absolutely love it. You've got Josh Allen. It's Pat Bryant. He pulls it all together. I'm getting like it's a real good price on that.
Yeah, and you can one-click tail it right here.
Yeah.
One tap.
24-1.
Yeah,
I boosted it, but come on now.
One tap that in the Tails app. I got one. This is wild.
Yeah, well, you're going for like.
I only do one of these a week, really. We hit that. I hit the 6-1 Gibbs ladder though the other day, and that was a good one.
That was very good.
Yeah, people were happy. That was before the St. Brown news too, but so it could have gone poorly. There you go, 50 to win 3,600 there. Yeah, go over to Tails, download the app, and thank you to all of you who have left us some reviews over there. That's helping a lot, man.
Yeah.
On the Tails app, over in the App Store, Google Play, if that's you. But if you have a second today, I look at it like this, right? We're never going to ask you for anything, but it is the season of giving. Hell, I was at the oldest outdoor Christmas tree lighting in America last night.
How do you know that? They tell you that?
It's in my town.
Okay.
It's in my town. There were many, like 10,000 people there, right? And I thought to myself, as I watched this beautiful Christmas tree get lit up, as Santa's up there and the cherry picker waving to the kids, and I've got my daughter on my shoulders. My wife has my other daughter on her shoulders, looking terrified. My daughter, of course, not my wife. I thought, these guys will definitely give us a review in the Tails app for the Christmas season. That's the only thing I could think of. I'm surrounded by friends and family. So it's a beautiful time of year. And all I could think about is we got a good community out there. And I'm pretty confident that you ask them and they'll head over there during the games, or maybe even right now, and leave us a nice 5-star rating and a review.
Yeah. I mean, I assume when you took your daughters to see Santa and he asked what they want for Christmas, she told them for him to review the app. You've got them trained well, which I appreciate.
How crazy would that be?
Yeah. Hey, listen, kids want what they want. And so, appreciate it. If you do use it, take 30 seconds and give us a rating. And if you haven't been on there, don't rate it. Just go check it out and let us know what you think.
Yeah, man. It's also just cool. Like, I mean, I would assume that if you rate it, you actually enjoy it.
That's
right?
what I mean. You don't have to rate it just to rate it.
Yeah.
All right. We had a good question from chat about this game from Cody. He said, sorry for the noob question. Why does knowing ownership percentage matter? That's a good question. So it's just about the information pieces, so you kind of know where the leverage points are. Because if we knew, take an extreme example, that's the easiest way to illustrate it. If everyone in your tournament was playing a guy, you would know that if that guy has a bad game, think of the advantage you would have. So that's the advantage of knowing that. If someone is projected for an extremely high ownership or low ownership, that's where you can create leverage against your opponent. So knowing that helps fuel the information of, again, because we're playing, it's a peer-to-peer game.
Yep. And Cody, I would ask politely, try not to be such an asshole with those type of questions on these shows next time. I'm kidding, man.
You don't say. I would hope so.
We embrace these type of questions, Cody. Never hesitate. Never hesitate to ask. Yeah. Also, in all seriousness, Cody, there's a lot of people in chat who are super familiar with how all of this works, that have been doing this as long as Ben and I have, using these tools. The Sims have only been out for like 2 or 3 seasons now. Some people have been using these Sims as long as you and I have. So never hesitate to ask. Yeah, there might be a couple people in chat that are, I don't know, abrasive, but most people are pretty cool and will happily answer your questions. I see a lot of them in there right now. Anyway, with the Jacksonville Jags, do you see this as a team today that is viable? Because I'm going to tell you, I do. You have no Parker Washington. Again, it's a divisional spot. Yes, there's some rain, but like no Parker Washington. Jacoby Myers seems like he has just been better lately, and it appears that he is finally gaining a rapport with somebody like Trevor. He's been reliable. He's been a really reliable source of production for Trevor Lawrence. Brenton Strange is $3,900. Yeah, I don't know, man. To me, this is actually not the worst spot in my opinion. And Sauce Gardner's out for the Colts.
Yeah, I'm pretty neutral on them. You've got a backfield that doesn't have a great clarity situation. You've got Lawrence, who I don't know what to make of him. I play him more than most. It does seem like maybe an against the grain stack. If you go Lawrence, Strange, Myers, something like that, it can work. And you're right, he has represented himself really well. We've talked about a lot of tight ends, from Waller to Strange to Juwan Johnson to Pitts, in a micro range of about 4,000 plus or minus a couple hundred. So yeah, I'm okay with Jacksonville. I don't think it's a team that's going to garner a ton of ownership across everything. I actually think because there's a lot of if clauses here, if Daniel Jones is ineffective, the Jaguars defense is an interesting leverage play, because there is a chance that his lack of mobility will really hurt him. And and they can get pressure. So I don't mind.
That's the Jags like one strength. Yeah. Outside the run, they can get some pressure for sure.
Yep. So it's nothing crazy.
The smoothie wars continue here. Smoothie one, Plan B Smoothies was in Ship It Live chat. Well, you told on yourself, partner.
Wait, how many?
Because that means you were too.
Maybe he got a report.
Oh, do you think he has
he has a
people
network
doing recognizance
He's like
missions?
the guy from Game of Thrones who knows everything.
He has scouts.
Scouts.
Oh yeah. What's his name?
Spider-Man.
Yeah, the eunuch, right?
Yeah, someone.
Yeah, the eunuch.
My memory. Varys.
But the other guy knew everything too, right? Peter Littlefinger.
Tommy Carcetti, as I know him.
Yeah. You got the shirt.
Yeah, not wearing it, but it's true.
Wasn't his name Peter Littlefinger in that? Was his real name right? It was. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. So clearly I have a little bit more interest in this game than you do, and definitely. I think that's very reasonable for me to be on an island here. I get it. And I try and stress this when I say these things, not to take responsibility off me, but so people don't hear it and like, oh, well, I'm just going to go 100% in on this game. I'm not doing that. I'm playing a lot of lineups today. I simply mean I want to get more than the field in a game like this. And a lot of times that's all you need to do if you're trying to get some leverage, Ben.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about Washington and Minnesota. You told me earlier in the week when I asked you about this game that this was just kind of one of those spots where you felt like it wasn't conducive to game stacks with the way it plays out. Does your opinion change with Jaden Daniels in today?
No. The only thing that changes, I like Minnesota more in the betting markets. I'm gonna bet Minnesota today. Yeah.
Is it still 2.5?
It's been hovering around. I don't know if it's sitting at 2.5. I think I saw flat 2. Hold on, I have it right here. And it has been moving, but I do think they win the game. Yeah, 1.5 I see on my screen.
Okay. Not a huge difference there.
No, it's not a big deal. It's not going to take 3 will not be tested, and it's not going to cross 0. So I don't really care, to be honest.
No. If anything, it just bounces back between 2.5 and 1.5. That's not all that significant. We are getting a lot of the Commanders D today, though. We're getting some Terry McLaurin. I'm going to tell you right now, I think at 5,200, Terry McLaurin's perfectly reasonable today.
Yeah. Obviously I'm not bullish on Washington in life or in this game, but both of the things we just talked about, I'm on board with. I could see myself getting to some Commanders, and McLaurin is fine. I don't think I'll be stacking that side of it, though. I respect Minnesota's defense. This is something I want you guys to see too. Like I just removed I had 4 uniques. I was running 4 uniques because I typically always run a bunch of uniques on these main slates. I don't want, I want to be able to give myself more opportunities with every lineup. If I remove the 4 uniques, you end up and go 0 uniques, Ben, on 150. What happens here is you just get more Commanders and less of everybody else for Washington. So what that means is a lot of these Washington lineups, these McLaurin, these Jaden Daniels builds, or like Deebo Samuel or whoever, they're further down
in the pool of lineups as far as simmed ROI goes.
Yeah. And again, that's just smoothing out, as you mentioned, like a risk tolerance issue. And this is not a game, and this is not a slate. As it gets later in the year, I think this is more and more applicable to, at least for me. I don't have as many like, oh, this is the spot. My like in a macro sense, I don't have as like direct targets, where early in the year we had some running backs that were like what 80% owned on slates. You know what I mean? Those spots are just not here at this point in the season. They're just not.
Yep. Plan B smoothies. I'm not reading that, but thank you for the super chat. So
No.
yeah, I mean,
Well then,
you like the Vikings, but that doesn't really mean too much from a DFS perspective. Are you, dude? The smoothie wars are getting out of control. There's another $5 super chat. Thank you, Smoothie One. Would you who would you choose not to play out of these running backs? Chase, Jacobs, Judkins, or Irving? Do you think the tight ends for Jags Colts are too risky with the rain? No, I mean, if the rain is concerning, I would actually like the tight ends more, honestly. Like maybe I come down on Alec Pierce a little bit, but Tyler Warren I would like more, than if the rain's a concern to you. I'm not super worried about it because there's not a lot of wind. Who Chase, Jacobs, Judkins, or Irving? Probably Chase. This is probably, and I assume he means Chase Brown, but this may just be me. I am a little bit worried about Samaje Perine's involvement. I know last game was a Thursday, so they do things differently on Thursdays a lot of times, but even before Perine got hurt and missed a couple of games, he was getting like 7 to 10 touches a game and in pretty significant spots. That worries me a little bit.
Me as well. Doesn't make it unplayable or anything like that, but it does increase the risk that you're
incurring. But Chase isn't cheap anymore. Sorry to cut you off. Chase isn't like 5,800. What is he, 67 or something now?
Listen, I hear you. All right. So in terms of, who would it would be Chase for me as well. All those guys are playable. In terms of this game, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you're doing something like that, go in and cap your exposures to certain players and you'll get less. I would urge you to be careful with that. I know Clayton, who's always in here, says this, and a lot of other people who use the Sims, and it's taken them a while to adjust to just kind of relying on what the builds you're getting are. I would definitely caution you not to go overboard with doing something like that if it's giving you some 2 tight end lineups. That's all I would say. But there is a way to do it, and exposure caps would probably be the best way, Carson. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, so I like Minnesota in the betting markets. You'll probably see that on Tails momentarily. I don't love them in DFS, though, because I think their best, path to victory or whatever you want to call it is to probably just drag down the game into deep waters and just win. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I have Justin Jefferson, as you guys saw, my anytime touchdown parlay. I like him as a contrarian option today. He's not 2%, but he's not 20% either. I'm not even going to say it's like squeaky wheel. They just need to get him the ball. I think everyone is aware of that. And I'm not saying JJ McCarthy is fantastic, but he should be able to get him the ball.
Can he?
Yes,
Seriously?
yes, I think he can. I don't think he's as bad as you think.
No?
No. Well, I think you think he's like very, very, very bad. And I think he's just not great.
I mean, I do think he's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's had one game with over 158 passing yards. He has been bad, really bad.
Oh, I'm not saying he hasn't been bad. I am not saying he hasn't been bad. I'm just saying I don't think this is not, again, it's not a shot. It's not relevant. It doesn't even matter. What we saw last week, that is a different scenario than JJ McCarthy. That was an offense that had no chance to ever move the ball. I think that the Vikings can and should be able to move the ball.
That's fair. Look, I'll give you this. He's at home against a sub-average defense compared to last week. Sure. I'd probably rather go to Aaron Jones, though. I don't mind Aaron Jones today at all. I don't think they really want to use Jordan Mason all that much, man.
No, that's fine. And Aaron Jones, I have no problem with Aaron Jones. He fits, pay down running back position pretty nicely this week.
You're getting him the cheapest he's been all year, and that's why I think he's viable. He's 53. Sorry, he was 5,200 in one game, or a couple games. But like, he's down there at a price point now where I'm not sure that necessarily accounts for his increase in workload before he got banged up last week. And if that was a close game, they keep him in there. There's no doubt about it. Like, he was off the injury report by midweek. They keep him in there if that's a close game. So, that is what we're looking at. So I know, look, I appreciate you for staying with what you said even back on Tuesday about Justin Jefferson. You haven't pivoted at all. The question is, will you pair him with JJ McCarthy?
I don't think so, because I don't really think that that's necessary, honestly. If Justin Jefferson has a big game, sure, McCarthy will be fine, but I don't think that there's that much. JJ McCarthy has 4 touchdowns today, and one goes to Jefferson and he has 3. I don't really see that, honestly. And there are other pay down quarterbacks. I'm going to get to a few before we round the show out. So no, I'd say that's on the outside looking in. It's Jefferson as an agnostic one-off.
So here's what I want to ask you here, right?
Just skip this game.
No. I honestly want you to just full out break this down on both sides from a DFS perspective, because while it has a disgusting 33-point total, I do think some people are going to want to get to Judkins, and this game hovering between 4 and 4.5. I can't do it. I'm not playing Cam Ward. It's not in this spot against Cleveland. But what do you make of Cleveland's offense, specifically a guy like Judkins today, who has actually seen a little bit more work in the passing game?
He is viable. It's a situation. First of all, look at his anytime touchdown score. I believe it's around a flip, and that gives you a good data point, because he's going to have to draw to a score. He's not going to get there on pure volume. Certainly the passing game might not be a flat 0, but he's not going to turn into Christian McCaffrey either. The rest of the game, though, is useless. So if you want to play Judkins and you want to play Cleveland's defense either together or separate, you can. I don't see, there's a lot of ways to make hero calls on any slate. I don't want to make a hero call with anything from Tennessee or the Cleveland passing game. I'm just not going to play those guys. And it's simple as that.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Within the Sims right now, I ran it with a field of 10,000 in the contest generator, 20% the first, as you can see on the screen. I'm always willing to make some adjustments, some ROI boost to some guys I like, probably going to be Daniel Jones, or I just may filter through and find some spots in Jones I like, play him in maybe like a spy or a power sweep, get some of Daniel Jones somewhere where it could pay off for me if I'm right. But with Cleveland, tough to do, man. Even Harold Fannin last week, it's like, all right, sure, he scored, but these guys, I don't know how any of them pay off their price point without a touchdown. And you might go, oh, well, Offit, what do you mean? That's most spots. Yeah, but not really, right? Like you could always have some of these games where, like, if Tyler Warren has 5 for 70, that's not great, but it's not destroying you. As far as Cleveland is concerned, and as far as the Titans are concerned, you can't really get there without touchdowns. And because these offenses are so pedestrian, would actually be an overwhelming compliment. These offenses are not good. Judkins is the one guy I'm interested in, only because this guy has a rushing yards prop. Bizarre, man. Like, he has a higher rushing attempts prop than probably anybody on the entire week of football. He does. Look at this. Do you want to take a guess what it is?
Judkins, yeah. 103.
No, his rushing attempts prop.
Oh, 20.5.
That's what I predicted earlier in the week. I thought they can't go higher than 20.5. And they did. 21.5. It's higher than Jonathan Taylor, James Cook. Like, 21.5 rush attempts is such a massive number, right? That I think he's still viable on volume alone, just straight volume alone.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, easiest game to break down. You can't if you invent plays, more power to you. But I'm not going to pretend that there's like these in-depth Tennessee plays. I have no interest.
I'm not
in
either.
that. No, I know you're not. I just mean in general. People are like, sometimes there's just even if Tennessee had 50 points today, that would not really probably affect you in a lot of tournaments, honestly.
I'd go a step further and say, even if they had 50 points today, maybe not a step further, but looking at this differently, and they had this exact same matchup next week, I'd still probably get 0 of all.
Oh, well, that's a given. Yeah, I just mean no one is going to play them, which, yes, if you're right, you have incredible leverage, but I don't see it at all.
No, we have one lineup with Gunnar Helm and one with Alec Iomanner. And I would assume, Ben, that if I remove the uniques again and just ran 0 uniques, my guess is that we have 0 of those. Oh, actually, okay. So 2, there you go. Look, actually, no, you know what I think happened? It's 300. That's why I saw the 0.3 and thought that doesn't make sense. There you go. Yep. So there's no Iron Man, there's nobody. There's one Gunnar Helm lineup and some Titans. If you remove the uniques and you go to Cleveland, similarly, you're looking at 9% Harold Fannin and Quinshon Judkins at 8%. That's about it. I am surprised we're not getting Cleveland defense, though. That's the only thing I'd say here.
They're expensive, but yeah, I'm a little surprised. We got a super chat here. Go ahead, Laffy.
No, go for it, please.
Should I be using any min uniques with 179 lineups over 4 or 5 contents? Which unique setting? Or should I just take what the Sims give me?
Well, you are taking what the Sims give you.
Yeah.
You're just running it further down the board. I mean, here, just if you're new to the Sims, think of it like this. If Ben runs at 150, 10,000 within the pool or in the field, and he runs it at 150 lineups with 0 uniques, you're going to get it's really, in my opinion, it's really just a preference thing. It's like a risk tolerance thing, because you're going to get more top-heavy exposures, right? Like you're going to have more exposures or heavier exposure to a lot of players. If you run it at 4 uniques, all it's saying is that each lineup has 4 unique players within it. And in doing so, it's just going to smooth your exposure out a little bit. There is, I don't know if you see it differently. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer at all in this case, but I would run some uniques on a main slate.
Nope, I agree. Yeah, I would as well, but there's no wrong or right answer. It's just know what you're getting into if you don't, which is very condensed lineups.
Yep. And by the way, Morgan, sorry, I missed that super chat earlier. Yeah, Morgan said when you were talking about Minnesota and we were talking about like hindsight and everything, he's like, yeah, I actually bet Minnesota, bet Justin Jefferson touchdown and played Max Brosmer last week. So, yeah, I mean, we all have our misses. Pittsburgh on the road, 5.5, 6-point dog against the Baltimore Ravens. I just want to say this about the Ravens real quick. Last Thursday was very strange, and I'm still salty over Isaiah Likely. But that was a microcosm of the entire game, wasn't it? Like that Isaiah Likely fumble at the goal line was pretty much just Baltimore all day, whether it was the offensive pass interference, which I thought was kind of like a phantom call, but another Zay Jones fumble, another interception or two from Lamar Jackson. Like the whole game was real, and some bad penalties. The whole game was just, it was disgusting. And still, you look back on that. I tweeted this. I was like, in another world, the Ravens have 5 touchdowns right now and are winning this game. Yet somehow they were nowhere close to that because of all those turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, they self-destruct, and it is an interesting game. We had a couple super chats on it. Goody was saying there is no real ownership attached to this game. Huge game in life. Any interest? I don't have a ton of interest in the Pittsburgh side, I'll be honest. I don't believe in Pittsburgh whatsoever. Maybe a piece here or there, but for the most part, the Steelers are not going to factor in for me. I think the more intriguing side is Baltimore. Well, what's it going to look like? Is it going to be a Lamar stack? Because clearly, I don't know if Lamar is still hurt. Something's not right with him. He can't run. So you're really drawing. It's not like he can't be an effective passer, but it certainly limits the ceiling. Yeah, look at the Steelers. We don't have much. I'm fine if you want to get to Metcalf. That's a pass in general, though. I'm not getting to Rodgers.
Darnell Washington.
Yeah,
It's a bad tight end position.
It's fine if you're completely punting there. That's all.
Yeah, but if Dalton Kincaid doesn't play, Darnell Washington is a pivot off a $2,800 Dawson Knox. To me, seems like it makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Okay.
I don't know. I think they need to get Darnell Washington the ball more, and that doesn't exactly mean that he's going to be better, or that they're going to do that because, of course, Ben, and as always, leave it to Arthur Smith to always find ways to not get guys the ball who deserve it. But Darnell Washington, if he's going to be 2%, I'm not going to sleep on that. I think he's viable. And I think Rodgers may start taking matters into his own hands at this point and just be like, you know what? I'm getting it to guys that need to get the ball. So just saying, he's $2,600. He's $100 off the floor at the tight end position. And he is actually very capable of having some decent games. So if I can get a little higher there, I'd actually be very okay with it. He played 80% of snaps last week, and they use him very uniquely, right? Like, because he can block, but he's uniquely equipped to be a guy that can catch the ball and just destroy people. He's basically Spike from the Little Giants, but he's grown up and he's in the NFL.
Yeah, if Spike didn't get the ball, but sure. But
you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. He's an awesome guy to watch. I just think that the role is the role for him, and I'm not gonna get there. I'll tell you honestly, but
fair enough.
Unique price point. I'll give you that.
Aside from that, I don't really like this spot. What about Baltimore? And I'll get to these super chats, but I want to get through this game first.
Yeah, I mean Baltimore, like I said, it's very tricky with the Lamar situation because I don't think he's clearly operating with every tool in the arsenal. Zay Flowers would be my favorite of anyone. I think it's a fair price point, just around 6K. It's not going to be crazy popular. He's still a significant weapon on the outside. Baltimore spreads the ball around. You've got Andrews, you've got Likely. Of course, you have Derrick Henry in the backfield. I think he's more casualty of the slate than actively not liking him in this spot. It's just you have top end running backs that we talked about. We haven't got to James Cook yet. Jacobs, we haven't got to yet. I really like RJ Harvey, so I'm kind of tipping my hand here. I'm not going to have a lot of Baltimore in the pool. If I landed on a little Lamar, I wouldn't be upset about it. But if I didn't, I also wouldn't be upset about it.
Yep. Well, again, Pepper Tony, that's what I was saying. Likely holds the ball. The phantom PI call isn't on Zay. And then we love the matchup. Yes and no. But in a sense, yeah, I kind of agree. And like that Lamar throw that should have been a Mark Andrews touchdown ended up being an interception around the goal line, around the end zone. So the only difference to me is that was Cincinnati defense. It was in Baltimore. This is in Baltimore too. Pittsburgh, I guess it's fair to say Pittsburgh's secondary is not very good right now, but it wasn't Josh Allen who had a great game last week. It was just Buffalo's defense. So I don't know. I'm kind of with you, man. If there was one spot, how about I put it to you this way so then everyone can make decisions for themselves. If there's one spot that worries me that I'm not getting too much of, it's not so much the Pittsburgh side. It is the Baltimore side right now.
I'd agree with that for sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to these super chats for a second here.
Get to the Minnesota guy. I would assume it's Minnesota.
I shouted you out the other day, Skull Crusher. I think on Friday I shouted you out, man. You had a huge win. Huge win.
Snowy Owl guy. I like this guy.
Yeah. Good morning, fellas. Thanks to the Stokastic crew for helping me hit a big one in NBA this week. I think it was 100K. Or no, 25K. 25K, right?
That'll play.
Yeah, it was second place in the main contest. Need to ship something in NFL now. Looking for your favorite leverage points today. Can the Bears running backs get it done at sub 1%? I don't love it personally. Appreciate the super chat. Congrats on the big win. We will get to that game and we're going to talk about that. But I don't want to do.
Sorry.
Get your paws off the controls.
Did you switch sides?
Get your paws off the controls. I don't know. It's better
over there.
No, go in the other direction.
No.
How did you switch it like that? Now you got some magic.
Oh, it looks like somebody knows what he's doing. Don't worry about it.
How'd you do that little magic act?
I'll show you after the show.
Huh. Show me now, or I'm just gonna look for it until the show's over.
Fine. You just drag it. Like literally.
My God, would you look at that?
Yeah.
Look, now it looks like I'm looking at you. This is better.
It's not better. And I have, I don't even know what that is. Some type of mental issue. I need to be on the side.
I believe we call that obsessive compulsive.
Yeah, that's fine. It's like sleeping. Like I would never sleep on a different side of the bed. That can't work.
Goody. Wait, you mentioned.
Yeah, I talked about that. It's
okay.
we just. Yep.
Yeah, they're both 6-6. Like it's a pretty. I thought there was another.
It's a huge game.
It's a massive game. Because in all likelihood, whoever doesn't win the division isn't getting into the postseason.
Don't read that, but
okay.
The smoothie wars. Oh, we did have this real quick from Nathan. Single entry: Irving and Pat Bryant or Harvey and Wilson. To me, it's clearly Harvey and Wilson.
I agree, and I don't even like Harvey that much today.
I like him a lot more. And top single entry stack.
Joe Burrow skinny with a double Bills run back, one being James Cook and one being like Shakir. I actually love the idea of skinny stacking Burrow with Chase and running it back with 2 Bills today. Get big exposure to that game, make it a unique style of build.
Interesting. I would say the Broncos.
Okay. Broncos.
Yeah.
All right. Jason, thank you for the super chat. If you have a question with that, because there's nothing there, just leave it and we'll find it. All right, Cincy and Buffalo. Here we go, man. Aren't you a little surprised? This actually, I don't know why. As we say, surprised it's a 1 o'clock. For some reason, I feel like there's implications for both teams here that Burrow is back, but there really kind of aren't, right? But it's a fun game. I just told you one thing. I didn't even know this game was coming up. That's just good timing. With the Bengals, I like Chase always. T. Higgins is back, but I always like Jamar Chase. I know it's a run funnel defense. The thing that kind of sucks here is that Chase Brown and P. Ryan both get work. Chase Brown is not cheap anymore. If I got a little Chase Brown, I'd actually be okay with it because I do think he's pretty good. But they like using P. Ryan a bit here. We are getting Burrow. We are getting Jamar Chase. That's pretty much where I'm at. I'm not getting to like Yoshiras, the tight end position. I don't love Cincinnati tight ends this week. I do think there are some better options out there. It is Burrow and Chase, but that's not what I want to talk to you about. Feel free to chime in on that, but it's more so if the field is going super heavy on Chase, I guess they're not going that heavy on him. Actually, I guess they're not. That's got to change, right? That ownership's got to change.
In what sense? For Burrow?
You don't think it comes up on Jamar Chase there?
Maybe a little bit. It's funny. It's actually perfect timing because Skull was just talking about the leverage points. And yeah, I don't see it with the Bears running back. If the Bengals stack doesn't have any ownership around it, that could be a real leverage point for you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And by the way, apologies, Skull. I thought he was asking, do I like the Bears as a favorite leverage point? Bears running backs. I thought that was a 1-part question, not 2.
We're going to get to my leverage plays. That's in the Denver and Vegas game next. But Cincinnati is interesting there. I would rather stack it than do anything else. Listen, I don't need to go into how good Jamar Chase is and Higgins is there and Chase Brown and Burrow, blah, blah, blah. And they're trying to rally. I don't think Cincinnati is going to win the game. I don't think that really is relevant. Just a side comment. Buffalo has been a pain point all year. It's really hard to get them right. I do think I have Josh Allen in my anytime touchdown parlay, but you've got weapons all over this game. And it is with all the snow or whatever we're calling for, it's still a massive total. Massive.
Yeah, it is. Someone asked earlier if we're worried about the weather. Not if the total stays the way it is. Nope. No. Cincinnati can handle cold weather too. Again, this is not like one team just being totally out of their element. And also, Skull Crusher, as we've gone on, I've mentioned all of my favorite leverage spots today. So cue the 7-6 game in Jacksonville between them and the Colts. Because to me, that would be the one spot I'd look to get some leverage there. For Ben, you didn't mention it, but Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, Jefferson. And like I said, my most important game is next.
Yeah. All right. Higgins it's tough.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Chase and Burrow. Maybe I get a little bit of Chase Brown, but
I will. My guess is I'll have I will have a little Chase Brown, but he's far from my favorite running back play.
Yeah. If he were 5,700, we'd have a ton of him today. At least I know I would. James Cook, we're getting a ton of Cook. We're getting a lot of Josh Allen. I've just been force feeding Josh Allen into my lineups regardless lately. 2 weeks ago, it worked out great. Last week, it not so well against Pittsburgh. This week at home, 54.5 point total. That bounced back up off of 53.5 again. And then Khalil Shakir, I like. Pay attention. In 11 minutes, we're going to get the inactives. Greg made a good point when someone asked him, what do you think about the Dalton Kincaid stuff? Who cares until it's 11:30, right? Like it doesn't matter.
Yep.
If he plays, he plays. But it's a great matchup for tight ends. I just hate the fact that Kincaid's going, yeah, I'm going to try.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to try to decipher what the Bills are going to do with these options. Shakir is pretty solidified in a role. Obviously, James Cook is not relevant to this conversation. He's a legitimate top end play this week. The rest of them, though, I could do without.
Yep. I don't really want to spend too much time on this game even until we have Kincaid. And I know Spags and Eric will break this down in depth, but I've told you kind of what I'm doing. I want a lot of exposure to this game, but I want to try and do it in a unique fashion where, like, if I'm just going Josh Allen, James Cook with a Chase run back, Ben, sure, that could still win because it's only 3 players. But I do think there are different ways, and some of that may be just going to the Cincy side with a single or even a double run back in Buffalo.
Yeah, it's obviously a game that factors into the slate, but the pieces for Buffalo do not add to a great onslaught team.
Lucas, I'm going to take it your word that you are, in fact, in this location. I believe you, though, because you have a Stokastic avatar as your YouTube profile picture. I live 10 minutes from Buffalo Stadium. Snow's been coming down all morning, but it's not that cold, not windy either. Exactly. Yeah. If it's not windy, unless you're getting just snow dumped on you, it doesn't, unless you see it differently, Bennett. It doesn't really matter if it's a little bit of snow with no wind. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow can play in that. I'm not worried. All right.
No, I'm not worried whatsoever.
Since Denver and Las Vegas, I'm turning this straight over to you here because you've hinted at this, you've teased it throughout the show. I actually need you to do some convincing for me. I need you to convince me in this spot. Last time these two teams played, it was 10-7 in Denver. Do I care about that? No, not really. It's one game. It's a divisional spot. These divisional games can get very strange all the time. High scoring, low scoring, doesn't matter. Blowouts, competitive games, upsets, all of that. It's just, it's the way it goes. You like Denver a lot today, though.
Yeah.
Tell me what's putting you on to these Broncos in a 40-point total game.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, when you play the divisional team twice and the second one is on the road and it's like a 7.5 point spread, these are the type of games where weird stuff happens. That's more of a betting take than anything else. But I look at Denver, the price points are super reasonable. I think there's multiple paths. That's what I kind of like about this game. I think Denver could just crush them, clearly. Denver's a really good team. Nix, Sutton, Harvey, these weapons could go off. I also think it could be very competitive, and they're pushed where they don't have the luxury of just leaning on the defense. And I look at, again, I like RJ Harvey a lot more than you do, I think. Bo Nix, he's got ample weapons on the outside. I'm always kind of team Sutton, but I mentioned Brian he's a dark horse for my anytime touchdown parlay, just kind of to sweeten those odds. I'm not really getting to Evan Ingram, but I guess you could. I feel good about Denver, and I feel really good about if you want to have a bring back, because as bad as the Raiders are, and they are awful, I think they're the worst team, they still have real weapons. They just don't know what they're doing. And so from Genty to Bowers, Tucker, lesser extent, I like the Raiders today. They are in the pool, these guys.
You and the Sims are very much in line on this game.
Yeah.
Right. You know what terrifies me? Last time Ashton Genty popped as a play that the Sims were jamming, I think I negatively boosted him. And I believe, Greg, I think did the same thing. And that was a 3 touchdown game. I still had some Ashton Genty, but I didn't have what the Sims were trying to give me. He's 6,100 against Denver today at home. we're getting the 28%. We're getting some Raiders defense. We're getting some Brock Bowers, not a ton, but some. But man, that Ashton Genty exposure, you know what, Ben? Sometimes you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Or you don't. You don't.
I mean, this is one of these games where I'm like I said, I'll take it full hot take. I have Geno Smith stacks.
Do you?
Yeah.
How are you? What are you going, like Bowers, Tucker? Are you going Genty as a taking Genty along with Bowers? What do you? I don't want to get to Geno, man. That's scary.
I'm sure you don't. I am sure you don't. But you gotta take a stand somewhere. And listen.
So wait, your Geno Smith is my Daniel Jones today.
Correct. And the clarification there is if Daniel Jones and Geno Smith combine for 0, that doesn't mean that you and me are out by any stretch. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're saying because you're not loading 100% Geno.
You don't need to. You don't need to get crazy.
You could play, just to put this in perspective, you could play 5% Geno Smith today and be 2x the field.
Yep. You don't need to get nuts, but I'm taking a shot with some of these Raiders.
I've got to ask you then, favorite, because I know you like this game more than I do. You know where I'm at right now. I do think Genty's viable. At 6,100, I feel like he's okay because he's discounted, right? And they're dogs, but he's involved in the passing game as well. On the other side, I'll always get to some Cortland Sutton for sure. I'll get to some Harvey. I don't like those guys as much as you do, though. And I actually have some respect for that Raiders run defense. And Harvey's been very touchdown dependent. But since this is kind of your spot, do the same thing I did with how I want to play that Colts Jags game. Tell me how you want to play this one if you had the ideal version of it.
Ideal version, I think. Yeah, honestly, the ideal version is just I think you can take pieces of both, followed by Bo Nix, Harvey, Sutton with a Vegas bring back of Genty. And then the most radical way is to do the opposite. Geno, Bowers, Geno, Genty, Bowers. And if you want a Harvey or a Sutton as the bring back, that's very different. But to me, this is a great game to have pieces of. And I do in a lot of lineups. We did get Jason's super chat, by the way. He responded to you, Lafe. So I wanted to take that.
To explain how to use the boom bust along with the Sims, sometimes I'll see a projected high to boom and the Sims isn't high on him. Yeah, because a lot of times, so with the boom bust tool, you're still factoring in the leverage and the ownership there as well. So like if you have a high boom score, but really, really high ownership, it can look different. You could have not that great of a boom score, but also better than what it should be for your salary and low ownership, and we'll actually get a decent amount of those guys. So it's just a balancing act is exactly what it is, but it's definitely a good tool to use. By the way, here's Skull Crusher. Where is he? Is he not on this one? We had him up there. Maybe these are just week 13 wins. Jay Snides
on it next week.
He took down, actually no, because I have it up here somewhere. I would just have to find it, but he took down 60K with the single lineup Sims last week. How sick was that?
Yeah, that will play, as I say often around here.
60K, 3 different lineups too that won. It was 2 different lineups, 2 different contests, and then another lineup. So the 60K was combined across 3 contests using the single lineup Sims. Man, I absolutely love that. And then, as you are already well aware of all of this, you can get the Sims for free. Like you could literally place a bet right now, or in game, or before the 4:00 game, or the Sunday night or Monday game, and get the Sims for free. Why don't you tell people if they wanted to, right? Like if they were saying, you know what, I see these wins, I want to check the tools out, but look, maybe I'm a low stakes player, or I just don't feel like paying that out of pocket. It's like $130 a month for the core Sims. How do they get it for minimum $5 or $10 and stack as many months as they want?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now. It's in the description. You get to this page. And the beautiful thing about it, get the same question every time. Oh, I'd love to do this. Well, my state doesn't have Caesars. Okay, well, I bet it has Onyx. If it doesn't have that, I bet it has Pick'em. If it doesn't have that, I guarantee it has one of the other books. every state has something. So you find what you're not on. You find what your state, and it'll geolocate it for you so you know what's there. Click the offers you want to claim. You can do 1 and you'll get 1 month. You could do 3. You can get 3 months. You can split them up, 1 NBA, 1 NFL, 1 whatever else, hockey, it doesn't matter. And each book has their own version of deposit bonuses, and that comes from them. So not only are you getting the value on the betting side, we're going to throw in those months of the sims that you're seeing for free. So follow the instructions at the top, place your bet, send us support at Stokastic, the email.
Yeah, not the
and you'll be taken care of. And if you don't believe me, every time we talk about this, you see it in chat. People say the same thing every time. I did it. I was up and running in a day. I'm super excited to have this for the next month. It took me 20 minutes, and now I have 2 months. I don't have to think about this till February. It's that type of thing that makes a huge difference in the process.
And a lot of people that don't want to stack like up front and put as much money out of pocket, they'll do one book this month, and then as the other's expiring, they'll do another book. So, yeah, man. Haas Smith, y'all hook me up with the free sims. We homies forever. We essentially are, man. Like you're $5-10, and if you win that bet, you're already free rolling. Plus, you're getting like Onyx gives you 100 in bonus picks on a $10 spend, and they're in 40+ states. So simple as that, man. Ben told you. If you're not there yet, you want to get access to the tools, stack as many months as you want. Links in the description. And if you ever have questions, come hit us up. You know where to find us. All right, so 2 games to go here. Let's wrap this one up. Chicago and Green Bay. Do I like the running backs for Chicago? Eric Lindquist popping up. He'll be in here in just a second. He's waiting in the waiting. He hit a nice little Kyle Monangai ladder against the Eagles on Black Friday. That was nice.
He's feeling good because Iowa State is a problem in college basketball. They beat the living hell out of Purdue. They are a problem. So he's riding high.
The big story here, though, is not the backfield. I don't love the backfield. They run block really well in Chicago, and credit them there. It is very cold in Green Bay. It's going to be like 18 degrees, but not really windy again, and no real precipitation. I don't think it's as big of a concern when you've got 2 teams that are accustomed to playing out in the cold. You know, not like those sissy Vikings who put a dome over their stadium. You can't give Eric a compliment and just let him roll.
You got to balance it out. Okay, I get it.
But the big story is the Rome Odunze absence.
Yes.
And Luther Burden sub 4K. He's already been seeing more work. I do actually think it makes a lot of sense to, at the very least, it is a tough matchup, a divisional spot, not a great total, 43. It's come down throughout the week. I do think you have to be looking at some Luther Burden, maybe some Colston Loveland, just because 1, bad tight end position, and you spray and pray some of those guys. And 2, Burden's been involved. They spent pretty significant draft capital on him, and he's proving that he can operate within this offense. So Odunze's absence is pretty significant to me.
It is. I will say, to speak to the other side of it, though, the Bears have a lot of different weapons. You know, they've got these other guys that I think can kind of mask.
That's why, can I just say, Ben, that is why I would rather go cheap.
100%. Because you look at someone like, and it's not like he's super expensive. You look like a DJ Moore. It's like, man, he should really benefit. Sure. But don't forget about Zacchaeus. Don't forget about the dual-headed monster now in the backfield. Don't forget about Burden, Loveland, Komet. There's so many pieces of the puzzle there. So when you're talking about Burden and Loveland specifically, we don't need them to become Odunze. We don't need them to have 13 targets. I'll take it, clearly. But we can get by with 5 or 6 targets here. And I think that's how I'm doing it. Caleb Williams is the type of really aggressive under the radar stack that I think could make sense today, but I'll be honest, I'm not sure I'm going to get there. He'll be a 1%er, and I don't think it's crazy because he makes a lot of wild plays. He can move at times. It's just a weird structure, but Caleb would be in the Geno, Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence, like against the grain stacks today.
Yeah, I'd have a little bit, and I mean a little bit, but the cheap Burden and Colston Loveland for the reasons I mentioned a second ago, I don't love the matchup for them. I don't even love either of them. They're just really cheap, and they probably keep you from having to get to double tight end lineups in some spots too. You know, Luther Burden at least, whereas Colston Loveland probably gets added into some of those lineups. But yeah, just looking at it, like we have 1 Caleb Williams stack on the slate. but we have a lot of Luther Burden and a good amount of Loveland. That kind of tells you what the Sims are saying here. Just go to the one-off cheap guys in Chicago and pretty much ignore it outside of that. Sounds like we're both on the same page here.
Yeah, I just think when you tie it together, most people are gonna take one for salary relief. Less will take both because that would probably involve Caleb, and there is a chance they both get there. In which case, that's a cool looking stack. I just don't love it. And then you just brought it up, Josh Jacobs. I know it's been a little rocky lately. This does seem like a really, really good spot.
Got to go there to some extent because he's now Josh Jacobs. Again, DFS is so much different than anything else. The salaries are very important, and he's sub 7K.
Yep.
So he's dropped below 7K as a touchdown favorite at home, cold weather game. Again, like it's just, yes, I like Josh Jacobs today. I don't really have any interest, and I'll keep this very brief. Maybe Spags and Eric have something that I'm missing here in the passing game for Green Bay. But with Jaden Reed expected to be back, with them getting more guys back, I'm just like Wicks was great on Thanksgiving. I'm not chasing that on an 11-game slate. This is pretty much Josh Jacobs for me and nothing else. And even if you did want to stack with Jordan Love, who's looked a lot better recently, coming off a 4-touchdown game. Even if you did want to do that, I don't know, dude. It's just a carousel. It's musical chairs there. And I don't know if I really want to try and figure that out. I don't actually.
Yeah, I'd agree. If I still think I feel fine that Christian Watson will have a role, but you're chasing a lot there. So it's not a Jordan Love week for me. And you mentioned it's a tough team to break down outside Jacobs. And it's a fascinating game. I know I don't particularly think the Bears are good, but they keep winning. So huge game in the North.
Tools are going right back to Puka Nacua in this LA game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all right with it. I've been so heavily fading Devontae Adams because the problem is Devontae Adams is the Rams goal line back.
He's minus 185 to score today.
He has, listen to this. If you know how you have like end zone touchdowns, right? Targets in the end zone, not obviously you need to get in the end zone, but end zone touchdowns. So touchdowns where they've been targeted in the end zone. He has one fewer end zone touchdown than any other player has end zone targets this year. So the guy behind him with the most end zone targets has one more target than he has touchdowns on end zone targets. Like that's how insane it's been. They're literally like they get inside the 5 and they don't even think to run. They have what the Eagles had in the tush push for multiple years. It's just automatic, and that's how Devontae Adams has been. But at his current price point, I still like Puka Nacua over Devontae Adams.
So do I. Just because Devontae Adams, first of all, the prices come up, and he's already reliant. Those touchdowns are almost baked into.
They are.
So it's like, where is he going to go? What's he going to get? 4? I mean, that's very difficult. Nacua is very expensive. You have to more debate him versus JSN, but yeah, I'm fine with it. Stafford with Adams and Corum pivots up. Puka to get different with Wilson. I don't know if Corum is playable just yet.
I don't think he's playable with Stafford is the problem.
Also, that's fair.
I actually don't really think he's playable yet either, but he's truly uninvolved in the passing game. Like if I'm stacking my running back, my backup running back with the quarterback, I at least want him to be a type of guy. Like I'd rather it be a Tajay Spears type, right? Where there's going to be games where he just starts producing. Not to say that we're doing that today, but you know what I'm saying, Ben. Like with Corum, you're looking at like maybe one target in this game. So that gets a little bit difficult. Stafford doesn't have rushing upside. Corum doesn't have receiving upside. Everything would have to go perfectly right. And Adams is a straight touchdown vulture as well. So I get what you're saying with getting different there. I don't know. To me, getting different would just be like not playing the Rams probably.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are the type of team they can absolutely A, lean on defense, B, score, and no one gets there because their weapons are super expensive.
Thanks as always, Goody. Appreciate you. Yeah, it's Nakua, maybe a bit of Parkinson again because it's a bad tight end position. But do you have any interest in Kyron today?
No.
Is it because of Corum? Because that is, I've been saying that for weeks too. Like that Corum role is a little concerning, and they're basically splitting goal line work and opportunities inside the 20, and I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it's just a deep running back position, and you're not getting there. Like on the basis of just logic, there kind of has to be a reason that you play someone. Sometimes it's price point. Sometimes you're like, they're in an amazing spot. Neither of those seem true to me with Kyron. His price point's not low enough, and his role is not significant enough at this point for a bell cow back.
All right. So genuinely curious to know where you are, and Spags and Eric, because I'm going to listen to this show in the background as I build lineups. They're coming up in literally 1 minute. Michael Wilson looks phenomenal without Marvin Harrison. He's already shown a great rapport. We've seen it with Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett's been accurate enough to where it's just he's been great. Greg Dortch is on the IR. Even like Xavier Weaver is out. Like this is bad at this point. And Trey McBride is expensive. My question isn't whether or not you like Michael Wilson. It's, is there anything else you can do with this Cardinals team today, given that Michael Wilson will be one of the chalkiest plays on the slate?
Not really. I joke around about this a lot. I actually don't know who Andre Basila is. That's a made up person. Honestly, I think maybe the way to do the Cardinals exposure is just, and it's so hard to do, force Trey McBride, because everyone's saying the same thing. Trey McBride's really expensive. I'll just play Wilson. He checks out, and he does. But Trey McBride is an absolute monster. I think he's overpriced. He's in a brutal matchup, but yeah, I don't have a great way to do it. Michael Wilson is underpriced and in a prominent role, and even in the worst of the worst, the volume should be there.
I'm with you. Or you just fade Arizona and Brissett just gets back to not being good anymore.
That's probably the second most reasonable. Like play Wilson, don't play a Cardinal, play McBride would be how I'd order it.
Right. Exactly. Anyway, you guys are the best. Appreciate you hanging out as always. Have a wonderful day, and make sure if you're not rocking the Stokastic avatar, I'll say this on my way out before Spags and Eric take over. Go to stokastic.com/HOF. Just use the link down below. This is 100% free to download one of these beauties. Use it wherever it is you play. So when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, even if it's in the quarter jukebox, you're getting a free month of Stokastic NFL or any sport max. That's like what, a $200 value? You can win up to 3 times a year, all the way up to a month of all access sims. You know, you've heard me say it before. The picture of your dog, great. The picture of your kids. I know I love my kids. I love my dog, but I wouldn't use the avatar because if I win with that, it doesn't get me anything in addition to what I already have outside of a pat on the back. This way, that's the Stokastic avatars up there. You tweet us, it's the Stokastic HOF. You got free months coming your way, and any 20K plus win, you better believe it. That beautiful custom ring display case to commemorate your win, engraved with your win. Yeah, man, we got it. So make sure before today's slate kicks off, you're rocking that avatar. So when you do win, you don't kick yourself and say, man, I won this small contest, but guess what? I could have had 3 months of the Sims coming my way. Anyway, you guys are the best as always. Thank you for hanging out. Don't go anywhere. Spags and Eric coming up right after this, and we'll catch you back here for the next one. Bye-bye.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock, Week 14 edition. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me on X at Eric Lindquist, as well as over at the Tails app. It is fantastic. It is completely free to you to go download over in the App Store or Google Play Store if you're one of those Android people. But anyway, we got Chris Spags here alongside me for a 14th consecutive week. I guess I missed one of those, so I'm a liar. 13th week of the NFL season. How you doing, my dude?
I've been here all 14 weeks. I don't take time off. I go 7 days a week, NBA, NFL. But enough whoring for myself. It's a fun NFL slate in front of us here. I think we have some interesting games, some interesting chalk, some things that I'm curious to hear your thoughts about today. But you're on the road. Where are you? I haven't watched any of your. I've watched any of your stuff. Where are you? You're in Vegas?
Yeah, no, I hate you too. No, I'm over in Colorado right now. Breckenridge. We're flying back here this afternoon. Leaving my car here, father-in-law taking it back over. But we came out here, and the largest Bernie's Mountain Dog Parade in the world is this Saturday. So Duke was in the parade. You get entered into it, and you get to just line up. You just show up, you line up, and you get to go hang out. But my wife, this is the one thing she's wanted to do for like 3-4 years since we've had Duke. So I surprised her. I was like, you know what? I'll drive Duke out here. So we split up the driving duties that way. And so ended up being a pretty fantastic time. If you followed me over on X at Eric Lindquist, had a lot of photos. I got a really great dog. I've got a pretty great
I did not
wife.
get that on my For You page, which I would have loved to have gotten that on my For You page, but I'm sad. I'll have to take a look during, I guess not during the show. I won't look during the show at the dog parade that you just mentioned. That's very cute. And though my wife kind of Borat voice moment, I feel like if you're
my wife, you carry my child, and here you go. This is what we do. The things you do for love sometimes, Chris Spags, they defy logic. But I was able to get bets down in 5 different states, only lost in one of the states. I hate Nevada. But anyway, we had a fantastic time over the course of this weekend. But I'm looking forward to this slate. Do you have any kind of like overarching things going into this slate? Because I think it's one of the most difficult of the entire year, because there's chalk I agree with, and there's not a lot that I disagree with. And I hate those kind of slates.
Yeah, I agree with I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying about the chalk. I think it's mostly good chalk this week. I do think there are some things I'm comfortable doing. Again, we've hit 2 straight weeks here on this show and across my general play here, the dumpster dives for QB when seems like the field's going to load up on pay up options. But this week we also get my boy Jaden Daniels back in, so I'll get some of that. I'll get some of the dumpster dive QBs. I am back on the Tyrod train. I think the total's not great. Kind of surprises me how low that Miami Jets total is. But with what we saw last week, we're now getting one of the worst secondaries, in football going against Tyrod. I am back on that train again. You guys, you got the payoff last week if you tailed it. Great. If you want to be back on the train with me, I am team Ty God, Eric. I feel like that makes everything much simpler.
So we're just running back Ty God because what happened last week happens this week?
Well, not in the same way, but AD Mitchell, I don't think he's going to be chalk for everybody, no matter what. But if you're going to play AD Mitchell, why wouldn't you play Tyrod with that? Mechie, I think, due to have some better games as well with the usage there. Mason Taylor, not a bad matchup for him, and he's still on the field a bunch. Breece Hall has been looking good, getting a little more check down work as well, and it is a good RB matchup in terms of pass catching against Miami too. So I think there's ways to go with it, and I like the pay down option again. And it's not just Tyrod, your boy, JJ McCarthy, I'm willing to dumpster dive for him a little bit. I think we got some cheapies again that feel like they have tournament upside.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you with JJ McCarthy. I just posted an underdog card, 185.5 passing yards against Washington. He has to do it this week. You might just be off the team next year if you can't get to 200 passing yards against Washington. This is the most quarterback friendly situation you can have in the NFL. You have Justin Jefferson, you have TJ Hawkinson, you have Jordan Addison, you have Kevin O'Connell as your play caller. And we've seen any quarterback come into this system at random times and be successful, except for JJ McCarthy over the course of the last few weeks. So hopefully we see a little something from him. Rip if we don't. My folks are at the game, so I'm sure they're going to have a blast watching JJ McCarthy throw 4 picks and me losing that underdog card. So looking forward to it. I'm sharing right now on the screen The Sims. Obviously, this is a little bit different than where we start things at. We've gone single lineup simulator the last few, but with no actives and inactives news that I think really shook anything up by any means. We got news that Dalton Kincaid was going to be in against Cincinnati's tight end funnel. We'll get into the ins and outs of that, but I'm starting here with QB1s with Tyrod Taylor, Tyler Shuck. It's kind of speaking exactly to what you're saying. Tyrod Taylor doubles, triples, 18.7% that we're talking about in stack ROI. these are abnormal type numbers as we jump into the quarterback position, going position by position like we always do. But did want to give Spags a little bit of a shout out that the Sims, they're kind of in alignment with you. And there's something with the Sims that I'm very much in alignment this week coming up later in the program, specifically the running back position. And then one thing that I'm really uncomfortable with. So we'll get into all of it. Anything you want to bring up, or should we just dive right in?
We could dive right. I mean, Michael Wilson, chalk, I think also we could talk about as
Yes.
another of the key slate points here, no matter what data you use across the industry. And frankly, other industry projections love Michael Wilson even more, no matter what the situation is. He comes up a ton. He's going to be really owned. I certainly think I get it with, Harrison out, also Dortch out. So you're losing another, potential target earner, Harrison and McBride, obviously your two top receivers on the year. But Dortch filled in admirably last time. And McBride's still there, but a little expensive, hard to get to. Michael Wilson being mega chalk. That's gonna, I don't know. Where are you with Michael Wilson real fast before we get into the QBs?
I'm lower than the field.
Okay. Do you just not believe in him, or is it just the chalkiness of it? Even you don't want to stomach that.
Okay. If I told you scored 20 fantasy points right now, would you take that in 100% of lineups?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would still make a winning lineup.
It's borderline for me. I think there's a really, really good pivot and really interesting opportunity. And again, this is probably where I'm uncomfortable with this slate overall. And I'm playing a little less volume, not just because I'm on the road, but because I truly don't have a great grasp of what the field is actually going to do. And I think our ownership has been pretty spot on this entire NFL season. And let's just get into this game environment. Josh Allen, QB. He's at the top of your board here, 24% exposure in the Sims. The Cincinnati side with Joe Burrow, he's only 4.5% owned. I like the Joe Burrow side a lot, mainly because I know Chase Brown, I know T. Higgins, and I know Jamar Chase are probably a part of that lineup. With Josh Allen, we have to click on Josh Allen. He's like minus 175 to score a touchdown himself. So that's always nifty. But the eternal question of pass catchers here. Is it as simple as singles with Dalton Kincaid or playing him naked? Because you have to get a lot else right in your lineup this week, Spags. And I think it's really, really hard. The Sims have him at 25%. I lowered him a little bit just to get to more of the Burrow side.
Yeah, I am not getting above the field on Josh Allen. I mean, look, sim-wise here in the top 150, I'm getting 9% Josh Allen, fields at 10. So I think with just Stokastic data as it is, and one thing I did, by the way, when you were talking, I tried to run a sim with Michael Wilson at 20 fantasy points to be like, oh shit, he's at 100% of lineups, dunk on Eric. He just gets at 50% anyway. So it doesn't,
exactly. That's the thing is that wide receiver has such separation in the scores. And again, there's T. Higgins is the guy for me this week. If T. Higgins doesn't play well, I'm probably in a lot of trouble. I think he's in a phenomenal spot. Tre'Davious White has not been the same dude this entire season. And I was going through NFL Next Gen stats and stuff this afternoon. And I feel as though there's no way that Jamar Chase is not going to get doubled in a lot of these spots. They have Poyer. They've got these safeties. There's such a run funnel. But I think that just comes in for, like, you get these separators and Joe Burrow and Joe Flacco and whoever it might, they've been serviceable, but like T. Higgins can be that dude. And I think he's just in such a better spot between him and Chase, and the price, it's price and probability in the same way that it is in a betting street. So yeah, no ownership on T. Higgins. If he doesn't play well this week, I'm screwed.
I mean, look, I think if you're going to play Josh Allen chalk, I think that putting a T. Higgins with it would certainly be one way to cut that ownership product out a good amount, because I guess, like Eric already mentioned, I think, and they also talked about in every other show this morning, you're going to get a lot of Josh Allen, I think, with James Cook, with Jamar Chase, going to be a large part of things. Anything that you do to deviate off of that, like, I'm not crazy about playing Josh Allen. He's, I think, also the cash game QB industry wide. And I've talked about a lot on stream. Usually one of my rules of thumb is, especially on these large slates, on a 3-gamer, you could do differently. Your cash game QB, I don't think you usually want to play in large field tournaments, because everybody's just trying to cover the moon with various ways to find unique ways to play the QB that's so safe. The QB is the position where it's most upside. And also, you cut that parlay where if you get the QB right plus his receivers, you're getting then, unique stacks. Like, again, last week, not to keep patting myself on the back, the Jets stuff last week, the Giants stuff a couple weeks ago, like you're getting Jameis Winston plus Wandale plus whatever, Theo Johnson, right? You're getting, A.D. Mitchell plus Tyrod, right? Like, you're getting parts of the picture right together. For Josh Allen, you got to do a lot of guesswork with that, where Kincaid being back in, I don't think he's playing a full allotment of snaps. He didn't do that when he was healthy, or, quote unquote healthy for him. And Knox playing a ton last week. Like, the snap shares were favoring Shavers and Gabe Davis. Like, you can't stack up Josh Allen. So you can't play him naked either because everybody's going to do that. So he's a really tough play for me conceptually to get to.
It's a really tough one because, of course, he's got the highest upside of anybody. He has such rushing touchdown equity. And minus 175, the prevailing average number you're looking across in the industry. I find no stack partner all that appealing with him whatsoever. I honestly want to ask you this. Is the best stack partner for Josh Allen James Cook?
So I think you're right, but I think the field's going to play the shit out of that too. And they do naturally pull from each other a little bit. Like Josh Allen, they've hit a little more in concert this year, but going back historically, like there's not a lot of days where it's, Josh Allen goes for 45 and James Cook also goes for 25, 30. There's a lot of days where Josh Allen goes for 45, James Cook goes for 10. A lot of days where James Cook goes for 30, Josh Allen goes for 15. And like, I don't know there's perfect correlation there. Your hope is that you just corner the market on touchdowns coming through the run game, I would think. But, that to me is going to be overplayed for a thing that isn't really, the strongest correlation. In best ball, great. But like for weekly DFS, I just don't think that makes sense when it's really highly owned. So, look, you can definitely play it that way. I'm curious to see how it works out for people this week because I get it. Cincinnati is an awful defense. But, like you can play max one of Josh Allen, James Cook, and that might be more of a way to get unique in your lineups if you're playing a 20 max, 150 max, stuff like that.
So the guy projected for the most passing touchdowns in the market is the guy right below him, Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams. I thought it was pretty funny the way that Loppy phrased that the tail end of the last show. Yeah, he's their goal line running back right now. You throw a fade to Devontae Adams every single time, and it's getting to be a little bit ridiculous. His price is one that, as I get over into, as I just kind of look around the industry, it's just wild to me to see like a minus 180, minus 185 or something on Devontae Adams. There's like 5 running backs on Sunday that have better prices to score a touchdown than Devontae Adams, but he's got like a 4.5 reception prop. They're not really utilizing him a lot of other places around the field. You're starting to see some tight ends integrated here with Matthew Stafford. It's an offense that's obviously very, very functional, but Matthew Stafford, I feel like it's just so elementary how you stack him up. Doubles, if you want to go the single route with one of them, maybe Puka Nacua. This is the week where he absorbs 2 touchdowns. I think he's a really interesting touchdown bet. I think he's a very interesting DFS play. Is Matt Stafford to you?
Yeah, I'm above the field on Matt Stafford by a little bit. He's expensive, which I think is the tough part. And then if you want to pay for him, it's like getting into like a really like high-end restaurant, or I guess back in the day, like a really annoying nightclub where you have to pay the ticket and you have to pay for a table on top. And it's like, that's what you have to get when you get Stafford plus Puka plus Adams. Like you're getting vigged to death with all those guys. But certainly I know I'm sure you paid for a table back in the day or two. Probably.
Oh my God, dude, I don't want to talk about it. The amount of money that I should go recoup from Vegas. You hang out with poker players. They are just degenerates. Anyway, continue on.
So for Matthew Stafford, the issue really is that like you have to pay for Stafford $6,900 on DraftKings. You have to pay for Puka Nacua if you want to go that way. You're paying another $8,700, whatever, $9K-ish on there. You're paying another $7,700 now for Devontae Adams. Like you are getting really just raked over the coals with how much you have to spend on those guys. But the upside is huge because we know Arizona is going to keep dropping back and throwing no matter what. That Niners game a couple weeks ago being one of the best examples of that. But still, in general, like, the Rams defense is a good defense. Maybe they completely shut down this Cardinals stuff, especially with them being really weak in the receiver core at this point. But, I think that what's more likely is you have a good Rams game here. Puka Nacua, I think I would love it if he were lesser owned this week because really the touchdown equity, like Eric mentioned, has not been good for him. Getting 1.1 red zone targets a game. Devontae Adams at 2.3. So more than double the work there. Inside the 10-yard line, 1.7 intended touches a game for Devontae Adams, only 0.6 for Puka Nacua, so like almost 3x the work when you get even closer to the goal line. It's not really where you want that to be, but then when you have it compiled with like Puka Nacua had the bad game last week in a competitive spot versus a not great Carolina secondary. I wish Puka were lesser owned and people were like, oh, Adams, let's flock there. But it seems like it's still mostly Puka ownership, and I think he's the better game theory play, but he's also the chalk.
He's the chalk. And wide receiver, I'm just going to be peppering 5-6K range and hoping something breaks. Not that I'm full fading Michael Wilson. That would be ridiculous. I think we can all look at the projections. We can all see Michael Wilson without Marvin Harrison on the field has been that dude. And in a just a volume perspective, not through big plays, not through touchdowns, through volume. And so, yeah, I'm going to have to find some touchdowns, find some other guys, but there's a lot of 5 and 6K separators that I really like for this slate. And again, that's the uncomfortable part of this slate is I agree with the ownership on Michael Wilson. I agree with his projection, but game theory, other things. And then as we start moving into this section here, coming off of, the expensive wide receiver, obviously I went on a little bit of a tangent, a non sequitur, if you will, based on what you just said about Nakua, but Lamar Jackson feels very, very, very forgotten on every slate. Joe Burrow surely doesn't, in a spot where we could see pass rate over expectation. You've got Buffalo on the other side of this one, where if James Cook has an absolute just gigantic game, where I'm definitely playing him at the running back position, I like the Joe Burrow along with some of his pass catchers, even a little bit of Chase Brown mixed into the mix, even with the Samaje Perine concerns that I've heard a lot this week. But I want to ask you about some of these mid-range guys, because we have the chalk quarterback for cash. Jaden Daniels this week, that one seems a little bit strange to me. It is a 6K running quarterback, but with Washington having nothing to play for, is it as simple as saying, Jaden, please do not go out and run, because his 37.5 rushing prop is about as low as I can ever remember him seeing in the NFL. It's a blitz-heavy Minnesota team, and he does have his weapons back here in McLaurin and in Deebo Samuel, but I'm not sure in tournaments that this is somebody that I really want to click on. You've brought up constantly throughout these shows over the year that you get these cash game quarterbacks that just pull more ownership than what they probably should in tournaments in a lot of these spots. Not that they're bad plays, but I think he's really the only appealing quarterback outside of Bo Nix in the 6K range. I don't have any Lamar Jackson. I guess Joe Burrow is my favorite, so I lied. Daniel Jones, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels. How are you kind of looking at this range? Because I know you've been going a lot cheaper in tournaments.
Yeah, I like this range a little bit more than I have lately. I still am getting a good amount of cheap exposure to guys, but Jaden Daniels, I'm going to be with, I'm going to be above the field. It'll be probably about 15%, it looks like.
Okay.
But, Sim right now, I'm happy to see the Sim still giving me 12%, field at 8. So both the Sim in favor of Jaden and myself. But really for me, I agree that Jaden does seem a little bit over-owned. And honestly, I was a little surprised with the projection being as high as it is, given that he really hasn't had the ceiling as much this year. And Minnesota's defense definitely getting a little bit less good as the year goes on, because they're just on the field a lot from the offense not doing anything. But they're getting worse by the week as a result in terms of EPA metrics. I think that's something where it's not like a clean matchup, for Jaden here, but total's not bad at 22.5 implied points. And I just personally Jaden was really great for me last year across every gambling format. I want to see him do well. So this is one where the data says he's an okay player or better than the field play. I'm going a little bit above that because I have personal bias towards Jaden. I love him and I want to see him do well against your asshole team of shitheads, Minnesota Vikings. Besides him,
thank you for not calling them what I would call them, because it's actually worse than that, but it's okay.
Yeah, the C word, the F word, all sorts of that have been leaving out of your mouth.
Coffin and my brain didn't go anywhere with the F, so I'm just gonna leave it be.
Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, I'm not getting above the field on, but getting a little bit of exposure to. I'm not mad about it. Lamar, though, I pointed out weeks ago, and he just was not playing like himself, and I thought it was shining through the numbers, really, in particular. You're taking pressure and taking sacks off of that a lot, and it was something that I noticed, visually a lot last year that just didn't turn into sacks as often. But now this year, you have a guy taking sacks 5.5% of the time. That's pretty high. Seeing pressure 41% of the time. That's pretty high. Negative 0.6 EPA on pressure plays. I mean, Dak Prescott's a negative 0.2. That's, and that's, it's still a negative number, but pressure, it's all about how you handle that, how close you get to zero. Lamar is like a bad QB in a lot of facets of football this year. I know people don't love hearing that. He's not running as much either. So you're kind of you're getting a compounding interest effect of him just not being the same QB. It doesn't mean he'll be this forever, but I don't think the spot against Pittsburgh is where I want to be there. So Burrow too, I just think that whole Buffalo-Cincinnati game, I think the Burrow side will be a little bit more owned as well, because they want to play Josh Allen. If they don't get to him, I think they get to Burrow. So I'm with you. Like Nixon, Jaden Daniels, I think the most appealing plays here. Nick's facing a not so great Raiders secondary. I like those spots. Everything else, I'm with the field or a little bit below. I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah, Ravens feel a little snake bit this year, to be honest. They're two really ill-timed Derrick Henry fumbles away from being just fine and being in the conversation. And if it weren't for those, we would probably have a different outlook on it. Obviously, the Lamar Jackson injury, not exactly well-timed either. So there's a lot. They had a ton of defensive injuries, but I'm with you. Lamar Jackson, flat out. You look at the numbers, you look at EPA, you look at everything. Hasn't been as good. Doesn't help that they haven't improved any wide receivers around him. They did just give Mark Andrews the bag, even though, he hasn't exactly been showing the amount of upside we've been looking for at times from him this season. But I do think he's probably my favorite. Just tight end. Everybody's kind of gravitating towards double tight end this week. It's another thing I kind of agree with that just is really annoying about this slate. But Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson. If you told me this was the week against Pittsburgh, I wouldn't be completely shocked, but I really think we've got so many better options as we go cheaper down the board. And I pulled up the stack ROIs right here again, and we'll talk about it in 2 seconds. I want to touch on these super chats so they don't linger too long. We had Strange Fannin, Franklin Godwin, definitely going to be the Strange. Well, actually, no. Franklin Godwin. I think 2 interesting wide receivers on this slate. Denver, we've got Franklin and Sutton sitting 5,600, 5,500, right around the Michael Wilson pieces. I'm mixing both of them into some lineups. If you get, Max Crosby is in there, and so it's never exactly ideal knowing that you're dropping back to pass with one of the best pass rushers that's ever lived over there. But I look at this as a spot with Franklin, with Sutton. You're not going to know who it is on any given week. Roll through 20% of your lineups with one of the 2 of them in it, and I'm going to feel pretty good about their upside.
I don't love that Franklin was behind Pat Bryant last week in snaps. I think that's not great, signal for him, but he's still been targeted more per route run than Cortland Sutton this year. So yeah, I'm not opposed to Troy Franklin, but I would go the Strange fan inside because I got a little more fan than I would have thought. The snowy weather in Cleveland, not awesome, but whatever. I don't think it matters for Shador and a tight end. That's like Fannin who can just kind of run after the catch anyway.
Yeah, DVOA for the Titans, just absolute basement dwellers. 1-11 on the season. They are about as easy as it gets to stack up against. And just so happens I don't stack anybody because it's just Shador Sanders. 175, I think I saw, or 170 for his passing prop earlier in the week. Weather's gotten better. I think it's gone up. But anywho, Anthony Massili, $1.99. Favorite stacks for 5 max DK. So I'm looking at it the same way that I'm going to look at single entry 3 max. I guess it's just a question of how many other lineups you might be playing. In terms of the tournament itself, I'm just going to kind of look at it as a 3 max type of a deal. I really like the Joe Burrow mix in as probably one of those for sure. I'm probably not going to put Josh Allen into the mix on it. We're going to get to these cheap quarterbacks, but you've tipped your hand a little bit on Tyrod. Anybody else you'd throw into the mix for Anthony?
Tyrod, McCarthy. I would still go Jaden if you want to go a little bit more of a pay up. It's probably enough. Shuck, I don't mind either.
Oh, yeah. I think Shuck's probably my favorite of the cheapies, but DJ Maya, 6682, $5. Glad you enjoyed Let's Cash today. DJ Maya, thank you so much. Appreciate you. It was a fantastic weekend. And now, Ben P, $794.99. Thumbs up for Gajeski since he's not on shows. He's the GOAT. He's a very busy guy in the college football streets. He's been doing an amazing job. But let me just tell you, Spags has been doing an unbelievable job this entire season. It's great to have him back in the streets on a routine basis, not just in the NFL, but in the NBA as well. He's a versatile individual. He's doing that. Go follow him over on Splash Play. Go give him some love. And Matt Kajeski, yes, college football savant. There's no question that's what he loves to do. That's what we're letting him do. Matt Kajeski, he is still loved. Wanted to give him.
That's what we're letting him do. Like, he's chained up and he only gets the choice. Like, here, you have some fish heads, Matt Kajeski, and a 4 Loco, and then you can go to your. How magnanimous are you, Eric? That's so kind.
Here is the thing, guy. I got to put on the glasses if I'm going to do the Matt Kajeski impression. But yeah, overall, it's just. That was my ode to Matt Kajeski. It's the silence.
Oh, okay. I was like, did you mute yourself? What happened? I totally missed that. But yeah,
absolutely nothing. No, you picked it up perfectly. See, this is why we work so well together. We're like ham and tuna fish, as they said once upon a time in a great Adam Sandler film. But we look sub 6K as we roll down the Sims. Jordan Love not really showing up. Baker Mayfield showing up a little bit over, but no Jacoby Brissett. And this is kind of where we start to get some of the chalk. Jacoby Brissett, Sam Darnold. I don't know if they end up 5-6%. We do have a ton of ownership coming up to Allen, to Stafford, where they're in a quarter of the field's lineups in the main contests today on DraftKings. But man, there are a lot of options below these guys. Upper 5's kind of a dead range for me. How about you?
Yeah, Brissett, I think you're going to get naturally just the amount of Michael Wilson you get. And you try to make that a little more unique by attacking on Brissett, maybe McBride. Probably not playing the secondary Cardinals receivers, though. I do think Trent Sherfield is like a legit guy who, if he got Greg Dortch work, he could be Greg Dortch, like I think. So I'll just say that out loud because I was going through the depth chart. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, like Sherfield has spiked before in enough spots, and like he's a legit slot guy that could do some stuff and get some end zone targets. So yeah, like I don't mind Brissett getting almost 2x the field on him. The semi ran. I think for Caleb, I'm not really there, but you do have pricing that is not reflecting missing Rome Odunze. If it were a matchup against anybody besides Green Bay at Green Bay and like apparently frigid weather, it does not feel very good for those guys. To the point where I think it was highlighted in some of the NFL weather stuff that it might impact performance a little bit. I don't really love that from Caleb, but I see the game theory there. And so Sim is not giving you a lot of Tua Tagovailoa. I did boost him a little bit because I just like the game environment for Jets Miami. Again, the total's not awesome, but it's really two defenses that I don't view in a lot of esteem. I've watched a lot of both teams this year because of the every week fantasy interest I have, because they are soft matchups usually to go against in fantasy. And I think Tua can get there. Like HN, we know spiked lately. Waddle, not so much, but the upside's there. I just like, I'm not a big Tua fan at all, but if the stack hits, if his stack partners hit, Tua can come along with it. And at 5,200, I think that he also fits criteria that I'm willing to go with.
Sam Darnold doubles, very, very popular as well. Wanted to bring up the fact that I love Jackson Smith and Jigba as the guy that you spend up for. I think I've said that every single time. Last week, did that go well? Absolutely not. But amongst Njigba, Nakua, Chase over here at the wide receiver position, seems to have you kind of spraying and praying a little bit amongst the three of them. And I'm all right with that. But I do have more of the Smith and Jigba side of things than Nakua. Chase, not a distant third by any means, still have quite a bit of him. But all three over the field in the Sims, which I find to be very, very intriguing as we talk about the cheaper quarterbacks, because Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett has a expensive tight end that we'll obviously be talking about in Trey McBride. A lot of people go into the Kyle Pitts plus Strange, Kyle Pitts plus Fannin, throwing in a bunch of these punt tight ends. And I do find it very appealing when you have a guy who can just put up 25 and dominate a position. That looks pretty good, but the opportunity cost in the rest of your lineup is kind of interesting as well. But let's get into the cheapies. You talked about Tyrod Taylor, sub 5K. Absolutely love that. JJ McCarthy, I have a little bit of him. I'm considering playing him in single entry on DK, but right now that's Tyler Shuck. And there's a lot of things that you could change my mind on as we're talking through this. Spags, you're obviously very sharp. Somebody who's in the weeds on a week in, week out basis in NFL DFS. I get a little bit worried about the ownership of all of these sub 5K guys. I think they have very easy stack partners. Tyrod Taylor, two wide receivers that have obviously shown upside. I even think Mason Taylor, we could mix in. I think he's going to have bigger games ahead. Tyler Shuck, I think this is the dude that overall against a Tampa Bay defense that has been a pass funnel for years and years and years. And now you have a guy in Chris Olave who's getting a huge target share. Vele, who was a winning player last week. Juwan Johnson probably won't go as crazy as to try to mix in any of Foster the People, Foster Moreau, who's out there at the tight end position. They're playing a lot of wide receiver 3 sets right now. It's a very annoying breakdown for me. But even Geno Smith, I like boosting him. I think Geno Smith is probably the guy, 4,300, that I'm going to boost and regret. But you know what? Such is life. How are you kind of breaking down these guys on the cheap end in your lineups? How much exposure do you have to them?
Geno is the one I'm ignoring the data on the most right now, because I do think like the Sims products will give you a little bit more of him. I think industry wide, I think he's just a guy that looks good enough in the data, and the assumption of a team, playing better than their projection is with Geno's historical numbers, he's a lot, more logical to do that than some of the guys around him. I just think he gets destroyed by Denver. I have no faith from what I've seen from Geno this year that Denver's gonna be the spot where he slings it. And I could be totally wrong about that. I just don't feel that one in my bones data wise. The other guys have great matchups. People in the chat are going, well, Miami's defense is looking better. The Jets defense has actually looked better since moving on from Sauce Gardner and Williams, but it's not good. Neither team is good. Jets defense giving up 0.13 EPA per dropback, 0.15 EPA per pass. We're talking bottom tier of the NFL. Dolphins, 0.17 EPA per dropback, 0.19 EPA per pass. Really soft passing matchup there. They are better versus the run lately. So that could help a little bit, I guess, against Breece Hall, but bad secondaries, things that I want to attack, especially this time of year where we have this data kind of reflects, enough of sample size to feel good about it. And same thing for JJ McCarthy. I was honestly at one point a JJ McCarthy believer because I thought he played well with limited volume in Michigan. I thought he also showed flashes before he got hurt this year, where at least he had a quarter of good play out there. And then it kind of got volatile, went weird on him. But versus Washington, it doesn't matter. They're one of the worst defense in football, a 0.22 EPA per drop back. So even worse than the Jets, even worse than the Dolphins, 0.25 EPA per pass. And you have kind of a pure rubber meets the road spot for McCarthy, where again, if Eric mentioned, if he doesn't beat up on Washington here, how do you have any faith in him moving forward? If he can't, and Jefferson is as upset as he's ever been too. there's a lot of squeaky wheel for this team. And, the total's not there fantastically either. But, I just think Washington is that bad, and McCarthy is probably not as bad as he's been. So I love all these guys dumpster diving this week. Exposure wise, getting like 15% of Tyrod, probably be closer to 18 when I tune things up a little bit more. But getting a little bit less of McCarthy, a little bit less of Shuck, a little bit less of Tua, but that's sort of where I'm consolidating half of my field lineups today. I think just kind of prioritizing those guys a little bit more.
Don't you say that. Don't you ever say that. Pittsburgh. Oh, God, you best believe that I saw that alert come in. I couldn't even tweet about it. It made me so nauseous. So we're not going to talk about MVS on this program. Oh, Lordy. It is what it is. But yeah, thanks for throwing that out into the world for everybody involved. I will get to this running back super chat that we all have as well in a second. But I want to talk, if we're playing 3-max, who would we be rolling out together in 3-max today?
I mean, a QB?
Yeah, QB. Just talking our stacks.
Okay. Tyrod, McCarthy, Jaden.
Shuck, McCarthy, Burrow. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that because the 5-max question, I don't know if we did like a phenomenal job, but I think there's a little bit of overlap there where I think we got enough of the board scattered there. Yeah, JJ McCarthy to Justin Jefferson, not showing up a ton in the Sims, but definitely something that, yeah, I'm hand building. I'm going to roll out a little bit and makes me want to vomit. Anyway, before we continue on our merry way to the running back position, it's super easy, friends, to be able to check out the Sims for yourself. There's so many ways that you can do such things. Well, we have Millie winners all over the place. I saw a number of them in the chat already here today. We've got ourselves a ton of link join opportunities for you, whether that's Showdown, whether that's, the Sunday main slate that we're talking about here, even in the NBA streets, no matter where it is, friends. If you sign up with one of our partners that are on our screen in the bottom right corner there, we've got Fanatics, Onyx Odds, Caesars Sportsbook, cover a ton of different states, tons of different territory, Underdog Fantasy available, so many different places, including here in Colorado, DraftKings Pick 6, so many opportunities for you to be able to sign up and win yourself some money utilizing the power of the Sims. And I repeat, 1 month for every single partner that you sign up for on the screen. You go to the link below, you sign up over at DraftKings, get yourself a month of the NFL Sims. That'll run you all the way through the NFL regular season. Then, well, let's say that you sign up at BetMGM. Well, you'll get yourself another month that will carry you all the way up until the Super Bowl. So you could have the entire NFL season covered just by signing up with 2 of our partners here on the screen. For each one that you add, you could add it to the NBA as well. You could get a month of the Sims there. Just simply follow the instructions down at the link below, take advantage of it, and hey, go win yourself some money like everybody else has here, utilizing the power of the Sims. All right, my friend, to the running back position we go. Now's where the slate gets really, really disgusting to me. Devon Achane, I completely agree with the field. I completely agree with the Sims. We look at Bijan Robinson. I'm not getting him. It makes me nauseous against Seattle. I get Seattle's been awesome defensively, but I see no Taylor and Robinson in any of my lineups. And I kind of agree with it where I want to spend that money up at wide receiver. I want to spend it up at tight end for Trey McBride. I don't really have the ability to go get anybody except for Devon Achane, who continues to do it week after week after week. How do you feel about these 8K above running backs on today's slate?
I feel good about Achane. I think, again, it's a good matchup against the Jets. Even though the Jets defense has looked better since losing some of their stars, it does seem like they've come together a little bit more as a more solid team defense. But still, overall soft numbers, giving up a plus EPA in the run game right now. And that's something for Achane. Not that it's the only way he gets that work, but it does help him out a little bit where I think there is the game-breaking play upside here. A team that also misses tackles at a 18.5% clip. That's a pretty high number. So for Achane, that's going to help him maybe break a few, have a shot at breaking those really long runs. That's not a reason to play a guy. The data is the main reason. He's a little more expensive this week, so he's not mega chalk, but he's been really reliably, I think, the best player in this like 8K range for a decent while now in terms of just not killing you most slates. Even the chalk is there. He's mostly getting to a range he has to get to. And obviously occasionally spiking massive upside like against Buffalo. But I think he's a good play here. Bijan I just can't get to, versus like the matchup against the Seahawks. I don't trust Kirk Cousins in that spot at all. I don't trust the Falcons to keep hanging in here with no Drake London. Like they got nothing at this point to keep the pressure off them. And you have the Algier thing that hangs over as well. Power runner versus a tough defense. That's a thing that does sometimes play. Not that you want to play Algier, but it could hurt Bijan a little bit more. So I'm with you. And Taylor, too, not coming up for me either. I think it's Achane or bust if you are going to pay up for running back, but I'm with you. I'd rather pay up at receiver if I can.
Yeah, and what I find so interesting about the Sims this week as well, and it's kind of stayed the same over the weekend. I was running Sims on Friday, Saturday, kind of getting myself prepared, going through my same ritual even out here in Colorado. And I look at what I think is very fascinating. I ran this completely unaffected. I changed back the ROI boosts that I had before the show, cleared them all out, 25% to first, 25% run backs. None of the top Sim ROI lineups have an expensive running back. We're all looking below this top tier angle. So like it takes a long time before I get to a Devon Achane lineup amongst these top Sim ROIs. So I think in 3 max in single entry, getting away from Devon Achane is kind of my preferred route. It's really uncomfortable because he's only treated us all very, very well this year. But I do think some of the lineups that are just jumping to the top here, Cincinnati, Chino, again, I talked about that one where, you know, he's not showing up in a ton of lineups, but he's showing up in some of those top ones where some of those doubles, you know, Brock Bowers needs to be a part of that equation to some extent. And you're hoping for some tight end failure in the early portion of the slate. Hey, we're at what, 10:19 Mountain Time. This is probably the latest I've gone into a show without talking about late swap. So I think there's a lot of it to be able to do on today's slate, specifically at that tight end position based on early information. But let's get to the running back du jour play. Can you poke any holes in James Cook? This is just an absolute smash spot, no?
Yeah, I think really the only hole you would poke is the ownership there. And that, you know, if there's a good Josh Allen game, that means passing touchdowns, QB rushing touchdowns could flow away from James Cook. But certainly the explosive plays should be there as a Cincinnati team that stuffs the run at about a league low 13% rate. They don't create a lot of tackles for losses. They miss tackles at a 17% clip, which is pretty bad as well. 0.1 EPA per rush given up. Does get a little bit better in the red zone with a negative 0.1 EPA there. They might be a little bit better, I guess, in terms of the underlying numbers. But across, the 20s, that's where James Cook's going to thrive anyway. Breaking those long plays, and he's getting great red zone work as well. They should be able to hound in the red zone a little bit, but he's getting 5.1 intended red zone touches a game. So hard to really feel bad about James Cook here. I'm above the field, even though I've tried to get away a lot from the Buffalo Cincinnati stuff. I think about a third of your lineups feels pretty good for James Cook. Yeah, he looks great. Hard to critique him, really.
Hard to critique it a lot. Again, showing up in just about 50% of lineups in The Sims. I think I have him in exactly 50% of lineups right now. Here's where it sucks. Everything sucks after this. Josh Jacobs against Chicago, 6,800. The volume is absolutely there. You need 2 touchdowns. Like Josh Jacobs, I feel like coming into this slate, I know I'm clicking on it, and I know I probably need, in order to win a tournament with Josh Jacobs in my lineup, 2 touchdowns. There's nobody that's playing Chase Brown because they're completely terrified of what's going to happen here with some of the owner, or not the ownership, but with the Samaje Perine mix-ins and potentially that degrading him here a little bit. Breece Hall is chalky yet again, and this is just such an interesting click against Miami. I know you have Tyrod Taylor. We saw how well it was simming with QB +3, QB +2. I have no problem having Breece Hall a part of it, but like, I feel like ownership is so damn efficient the entire way down. And it's not until RJ Harvey where I love being overweight to RJ Harvey for what it's worth, but I don't really have a mid-tier running back that I like more or less than the field aside from Josh Jacobs. Do you?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs definitely coming up the most here. It does seem like a pretty good spot, and frankly now with losing Odunze, for as bad as he's been lately, losing him in that lineup increases the odds of Green Bay, like really making it hard on Chicago and the weather too. Like that's a kind of a classic running back grinding it out, NFC North kind of battle thing. All the narrative, all the data supporting Josh Jacobs, hard to get away from him. And I'm above the field on him as well. Bucky, I do like a little bit more expensive there. I know we kind of skipped past him, but I think he's a nice 15% play to have. People in the chat pointing out, I guess he got baptized this morning. He has been kind of going through it because I think he had some sort of familial loss or personal loss amidst being injured, and then like battled his way back and whatever. And that's part of why I was like seemingly pretty emotional for the team for him to score a touchdown last week. They gave him crazy work is the main thing for fantasy. Just shy of 20 touches last week. Pretty good work for Bucky on the first game coming back, only playing a limited amount of snaps. So I think him gets New Orleans this week. I think a nice tournament option. But I agree, like just spreading the ownership around, like Chase Brown, the field being low on. I'm low on him too, but it is a soft Buffalo run defense. Their pass defense is infinitely better than their run defense. They're one of the worst run defenses in football. So Chase Brown hitting possible. But it does seem like Chase Brown having P. Ryan back, maybe Burrow not as good for him as Flacco was. Some factors to consider. But Breece Hall, Judkins, cool. Genty, a little bit less into it there, but sim-wise, you are getting him a good amount because he's cheap. This lot of ownership comes this range, and I have no issue with it.
All right. Yeah, I have no issue with anything showing up on the screen at all. And again, that's where I just kind of feel uncomfortable, where I feel like I'm holding hands a lot with the field. Ashton Genty, I see, an update. I was getting a lot of Ashton Genty running the Sims yesterday. I'm not a huge fan of him in this spot. I do think Trey Tucker worth some shots. And of course, Brock Bowers in that game environment. But I love RJ Harvey here. He played a lot more over Jaleel McLaughlin. He had an awesome workload there in that spot against Washington. Vegas, I do think this is just a team that you can probably do whatever you want at a certain extent against, but we're looking at such a low total. And yet RJ Harvey, if you just kind of look at our stats page, if you kind of like run things, if you're aggregating, if you're looking at any of data that you're trying to get from a betting perspective, we are a lot higher than the market on RJ Harvey. And I absolutely love it and couldn't agree with it anymore. I think he's the one guy that I'm happy to be taking some kind of running back stand with. Kenneth Walker, I know you were pretty against him last week. That definitely came to fruition despite some good opportunities, I think, for Kenneth Walker. He ended up very, very popular. Now, a little less so, added more expensive tag ever so slightly. $5,600 for him. And Aaron Jones holding hands with the field there. Minnesota's basically out of it, but you're still trying to develop JJ McCarthy. You're still going out there trying to win football games, I suppose, even week 14 when the NFC North is a gauntlet now. I kind of agree with what the Sims are doing in this spot too. Do you?
It's a little bit odd to me how Aaron Jones fell off so much from the early, the runs of projection like Friday or so, where it looked like he was going to be potentially mega chalky at 5,300. And now he's like a total non-factor. That is one thing that I like to note in my brain where it's like, maybe there is still a good underlying play there, but your projections tighten up for reasons. Obviously Jones coming off another injury, even though, he was back in practice, wasn't really an issue heading into the week or heading into the game today, but Mason is still there looming. I was really hoping we'd get Jones out and Mason would get the full run against Washington. But that unfortunately didn't work out that way. But I'm unfortunately above the field on Kenneth Walker this week. I hate the snap share. It was 35-26 last week for Walker versus Charbonnet. The price tag works really well with some lineups. I didn't move off Walker, even though I'm getting him at 25% of my lineups. I hate it because I do think when he is chalk, it's just there is a big pull going against him. And that's Zach Charbonnet putting a 20-yard touchdown down when it's like Walker killing the drive or moving to helping move the ball generally overall. But the price tag works. I think you need him this week. And Harvey, I don't mind. Raiders run defense a lot better than the pass defense. So not sure it's an RJ Harvey smash spot, but he's getting crazy work. So paying down here, not bad. Really 6,500 and under, I think. Really good range for running back.
I find it very annoying that him and Zach Charbonnet have identical touchdown props. Yay, plus 110 across the board. It's just such a headache, but Kenneth Walker gets a lot more of that middle of the field work. And I got to think the Kenneth Walker game is going to come sooner rather than later in this offense where teams are going to have to do a lot to stop Jackson Smith-Njigba and Sam Darnold. Also, Sam Darnold, I miss you, boo. I miss you. I didn't know how much I was going to miss you this season, but the answer is a lot, it would appear. Anything else to talk about at running back? Because I think wide receiver is where I really want to get to.
No, I think we covered pretty much everybody. No, Derrick Henry's the one we skipped past that I did boost my exposure to a little bit because I think the game script fits him pretty well. He's been awful this year, but the Pittsburgh run defense is pretty bad and not improving week to week, whereas the pass defense is improving a little bit. So I did get some there, and we didn't say his name at all. So here we go. Say his name. He appears. Derrick Henry.
Beetlejuice, or Eric, as Greg would say. Hall or Judkins today for you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm getting a little bit more Hall, but I'm getting a good amount of Judkins. So I'm getting both around 20%, but I would favor Breece Hall by a little.
Yeah, I don't mean to gloss completely over Judkins because his volume has been ridiculous, but I do think Hall the more appealing tournament option for me today. Tony Pollard or Samaje Perine. Oh boy, we are deep in the weeds. I'm not from DFS for either perspective. So I'm assuming this is like a 16-team ridiculous fantasy league that we've got to figure something out for him here. I would probably smash and pray Samaje Perine.
They are both under 5K on DraftKings, so it's possible it could be a DFS question.
Mother of God.
Yeah, neither, but Pollard, I guess.
Oh, Pollard, interesting. I'd say Perine maybe for game environment if you're talking DFS, but what is he, 4,200, I think I saw. But
if you're just going to grind projection, it's Pollard, but like, yeah, P Ryan, I don't know. Neither is a good play. You should, if it's a DFS lineup, you should rethink things a little bit more.
Congratulations to both of them being optimal. Favorite stacks on FanDuel for tournaments. Jeremiah Johnson wants to know the FanDuel side of things. And you know what? FanDuel needs love to no discrimination here, Squirrel. We got ourselves an interesting slate, I would say, on FanDuel. I played one lineup over there this week. Didn't end up putting a ton of thought, effort, a lot of anything into the FanDuel side of things. I'm not sure if you're playing over there this week or whatnot, but I think Josh Allen is a little bit more appealing over there, where it's just give me some of those rushing touchdowns if you really want to, Josh Allen. RJ Harvey, 6,500. There's some things like Addie Mitchell, 6K. There was also Mega Chalk Michael Wilson. You saw Michael Wilson's tag over there, correct? 5,700.
Yeah, he's too cheap. And then Rams too, top stacks tool, really in favor of only 11% ownership for Stafford, but a 21% chance to be the top stack. So that's really nicer leverage on Stafford than you're getting on DraftKings. It seems like Joe Burrow too, a little bit under owned based on the top stacks tool, about half the ownership, 6% compared to his chance to be a top stack, 13. So I think Rams and Joe Burrow would stand out the most.
I feel like Joe Burrow doubles on FanDuel have treated me well over the years. So yeah, I'll definitely back that one, obviously, because that is what I'm doing on DraftKings here as well. Let's talk wide receiver. We brought up these three expensive wide receivers. Sims, have you overweight to every single one? It stands to reason, Spags, if we're not paying up at running back, we're probably going to be paying up at another position. Who's your favorite of the three?
I'll go Puka Nacua. I think Puka Nacua, to me, I mean, again, I wish he were lower owned for the fact that like got scooped on touchdowns last week. It was really frustrating for me. A lot of my best lineups last week, paying down for the stacks, getting up at receiver, landed on Puka Nacua and JSN in the worst week you could ever have to play both guys. But I think that does make them a little bit more appealing to go back to this week. The fact they did fail in that kind of situation last time out. So Nacua, I'm getting in about a third of my lineups. Stokastic Sim's a little bit lower, but I do have Puka a little bit higher in my builds overall. JSN getting around 20%, Fields at 13. No issue with that, especially after, again, another dud last week. Jamar Chase, ownership's kind of leveled out on him. It's still in that range. I think he looks good too. 20% ownership for the field. I'm getting a little bit less than that, but basically the same amount. Yeah, I'm with you. I think these guys look good. And Devontae Adams at 8%. Sim does not like him on Stokastic, but I tried to get with the field because I do think he's still a worthwhile about 10% play. But you could spend a lot of good money at receiver this week, Eric. Who are you spending it on?
Jackson Smith-Njigba the most, Puka Nacua second, Jamar Chase third, mainly because of how much Higgins I'm going towards. I'm really, really, really in line with Higgins as kind of my separator this week. And also this entire range. I mean, it's not even spending up. It's more of being balanced with some of these 5-6K receivers where I think there's a ton of upside. Now, I will let it be known, the Sims have everybody overweight to Michael Wilson. And I think playing some 3-max stuff, playing single entry here today as well, in addition to the larger tournaments over on DraftKings, I look at 31.6% Michael Wilson. If you told me there was one wide receiver we saw that just got completely steamed up to a place that you didn't even recognize it, Michael Wilson could legitimately end up 40% this week. Like, I legitimately believe everybody saw what happened without Marvin Harrison on the field. I find it very difficult to imagine a world with the Sims, a world where volume is king, a world where Marvin Harrison is just not very good at football. Michael Wilson is pretty damn good at football. And I know that that might not be what Arizona fans want to hear because that's not the way they were drafted, but it is what it is. And I just get a little bit worried that, all right, if Michael Wilson doesn't score, he can get 7-8 catches, 80 yards, and I probably want 0 of it. So I think the Rams, coming off of getting destroyed by Carolina, have a lot to prove defensively. They're going to get after it. And Ken, you look at Jacoby Brissett, it's over 38 pass attempts in the marketplace right now. I have no problem with Michael Wilson, but I look at this entire range here that the Sims are not landing on. Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Egbuka, Higgins, Flowers. We're talking about tournament-winning wide receivers that are all sub 7K. I have so much more of the field than these guys, mixing around 20 max, around 150. I love the idea of getting to way more Higgins, way more Olave, way more Waddle, and seeing where that lands me on a slate where Michael Wilson, he is the most comfortable click. I totally understand what can happen with my lineups here. But Spags, I'm going to be trimming Michael Wilson to around 15-20%, and I'm going to be just spreading 5% here, 5% there above the board.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Michael Wilson at about 55% of all my lineups, which were built pre-show. I just reran the Sims, though, on Stokastic and getting a 79% Michael Wilson. And it does seem, in fact, now, if you give him a 20-point projection, he will be in 100% of lineups. So I would say for Michael Wilson, if you think he's going to score 20, you should probably play him because it does seem like you'll just then have the ability to get the pay-up options around it. I think there are guys in that range that you can pivot to if you really want to be, pure tournament brained. Like you got Jacoby Myers, whose role is really evolving. No Parker Washington too means Myers probably get even more slot work, and he is now playing that Cooper Kupp archetype, that Chris Godwin, very successful archetype last year for this Liam Cohen offense. So I think for the range, I could see why you would not play Michael Wilson, but he's going to get a lot of air yards. Like he's going to get those opportunities downfield. He's going to get probably, depending on the game script, he could get like 15 targets here. I think could be a shot based on how he has played without Harrison. I would push back that Harrison is bad. Like, I don't think he's bad. He just got hurt last week. Was looking okay before he got hurt. It's just, like he's been banged up a little bit more here, and he hasn't had the full time with Brissett that Michael Wilson has had. That's clearly benefiting both their chemistry and the amount of opportunities had that's allowing him to play better. But Wilson's getting the opportunity now. So Rams defense is a pretty good defense, giving up negative EPAs per drop back, negative 0.05 per pass. But I think Wilson's a good chalk. I'm with you that there are good pivots around him. I still played him, in more than half my lineups.
Okay. Fading Wilson. I didn't say the word fade. I'm playing him lower than the field. So people need to learn to listen, but that's fine. That's a different conversation for a different day. We've got a lot of other wide receivers to discuss. Yes, Michael Wilson makes a lot of sense here. Jacoby Myers. Talked about Cortland Sutton, also not showing up on your screen. Troy Franklin. I don't know what to make of the snap shares last week. It is very uncomfortable to see Troy Franklin just kind of reduced there and going to more Bryant. You brought that up beforehand as well, but Cortland Sutton, 5,600. DK Metcalf, 5,400. Michael Pittman, 5,400. Looks like the weather has improved a little bit in the Jacksonville spot here, so I'm all right with it. And then Khalil Shakir. This feels like the guy that if you're worried about Dalton Kincaid and how much he's going to be playing, Khalil Shakir feels like the best pass catching option, not the James Cook side of things, but the best pass catching option to pair with Josh Allen if trying to get to those singles that are still simming out pretty darn well. Is there anybody in like the 5K range that you find yourself well over the field on?
No, I got a little bit more than the field of McLaurin just because of the Jaden stacking I'm doing, and McLaurin did look really a noteworthy improvement to his role last week versus a Denver team that certainly is not the kind of team you want to chuck against, but they had Mariota chucking there. It's part of my hope for Jaden Daniels coming back in is that we saw Mariota throw 50 passes last week. I'm hoping that there's a little more desperation here as opposed to kind of the arrogant run first approach that Cliff Kingsbury's brought to the Commanders this year. So I think that benefits for McLaurin and last year too. I think for McLaurin, that would be my hope for going to him today in that range. But only getting 15, 20%, nothing too crazy compared to the field's 10. Watson a little bit above on, but you get Jaden Reed back in. Golden a Q tag. Has that come out yet? Is he playing or not?
I honestly, he's been so bad this year that I haven't thought about him one time.
But it would affect
will be coming up later, but he was supposed to play for what it's worth.
Yeah, so like that could hurt Watson a little bit. Obviously, Watson has been straight up better than Golden for the amount that he's played this year, but I think Watson playable at the field 11%. Mooney, I'll just say that I think there is a chance that he could do something generally against Seattle. Probably not the time, but he's getting opportunities. He's out there a lot. He's just not getting force-fed targets. He's not getting open enough, but desperate times against Seattle, maybe. But yeah, around it's under 5K though. For the 5K guys, I think McLaurin stands out the most. Watson, not bad. And Godwin looked good last week visually, but I don't know that I would trust that necessarily.
Now we get really, really, really fun because we have your favorite pairing, Adonai Mitchell, John Mechie. Look how the Sims have this breaking down. Last week, Adonai Mitchell has the game. Now Adonai Mitchell is the guy. Last week, John Mechie was the guy getting more volume. Now it was John Mechie. Do you just boost John Mechie, have a lot of Addy Mitchell as well, and just kind of call it a day? Are you well overweight to both? Because I assume, just knowing you probably are.
I'm actually a little bit lower on Mitchell. I'm getting Mitchell at about 20%, Mechie at 18. So again, that's my pre-show stuff where I try to massage things best I can, hopefully not to change it on the air. Mitchell's coming up more though in the Sims. Sims giving you in Stokastic 31% here. I didn't feel comfortable with that number necessarily because I do think I wanted to play some Mason Taylor, Mechie lineups without AD because I think that everybody's going to flock there. And as we know from the limited amounts of AD Mitchell's career, when everybody believes in him, that's where you don't want to be there. When nobody believes in him, that's when he's actually worth playing.
Sick how true that is.
It's stupid, but and honestly, the 13% ownership for the field, I think it might be 20. He might be 20% owned because people saw that and they've loved AD Mitchell and they've thought he should be better. And then he showed one good game where he caught passes falling on the floor and he got wide open, but it wasn't necessarily the best hand showing here. I think that he's a good play. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a lot chalkier. But I like those guys. Luther Burden, very cheap as well for the situation he's in now, where his snap share has to increase because of having no Rome Odunze. Though I guess there's a chance it maybe doesn't as much because Burden's mostly been a slot guy and they could maybe move him there and play somebody else out wide, doing more of the Odunze work. But Burden looks good at 3,800. Vele, could point chase as well. Pat Bryant, we talked about. There's a lot of cheap options, honestly, again, that are viable. There's been more, I feel like, in DK the last month of guys under 4K where I'm like, this is not a god-awful play, and they've hit at a decent clip.
I mean, I don't find Vele to be all that point chasey. He's played 89 and 88% of snaps, week 12 and week 13. There was always going to be opportunity when you trade a receiver like Rashid Shaheed, who hasn't really done much in Seattle, but it's kind of a protection for some of the other pieces that they've got there at the moment. I know there's a lot of people who have been talking about over on X and such, oh, he's being underutilized or this or that. And it's like, no, they've got a really good defense. They have not had to air it out at any point in time. And yeah, you want to have some kind of an insurance policy on a team that you feel is Super Bowl caliber, which I believe Seattle does. And I think they've showed it, especially with that defense at times this year. But Chris Olave, Devon Vele, Mason Tipton, all of them played north of 85% of snaps last week. They're playing a ton of wide receiver 3 sets. And Mason Tipton is not getting any target share. So it feels like a pretty great spot for Devon Vele. I'm happy that the Sims have me onto him again. Again, you don't really know what the public's going to do. Point chasey is the one word for it. The other thing is just, being a fish, but he's simming out so well. 3,700 pairs nicely with some of those expensive wide receiver options. I have no problem with it whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think Vele, the issue is he's largely been running wind sprints out there besides last week, only a 15% target rate. Which is half of what Olave gets and less than, Juwan Johnson, less than Taysom Hill. That'd be my critique of Vele, but you're right. Just the pure volume of snaps. I think sometimes people underrate just how much it matters that a guy's just on the field endlessly. And he's on the field endlessly.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. You talk about that a lot on Showdown shows that I've caught as well. So Troy Franklin, 53% of snaps. Pat Bryant, 70% last week. How sticky that's going to be, I don't know. Sims have us getting to a little bit. I don't know who Xavier Smith is. I'm not going to lie. I've seen him play a little bit for the Rams, but he looks like Tutu Atwell somewhat to me. You could throw anybody in there. The Rams throw it a lot, so I suppose it's just a cheap option at 3,100 to get in a lineup or two in 150. But I strongly prefer right here Burden, Vele, and then Pat Bryant. I think that's kind of going to be it for me. Gabe Davis, what a time to be alive. What are we doing?
Yeah. Bachelia, boy, that sounds like an Italian last name, but he can't be, right? He can't be an Italian guy.
Maybe. You don't know. I don't know either. I
gotta say, I don't know anything about him. He does not look like he's an Italian guy.
Yeah, we're not holding the entire season against Vele. It's a completely different role. There's no Rashid Shaheed there. So we definitely did not feel that way in any way, shape, or form. But I know one thing. Swags and I both feel this way. You guys need to be over on Tails. Download the Tails app right now at the video description box below. Go to the App Store. Go to the Google Play Store. Go to Tails.bet. Tails.bet will give you all of the bets that you're looking for this morning, for this afternoon, and for tonight in the NFL streets. But that's not all, friends. I know there was a college selection show. Notre Dame gets ousted. Yeah, I'm watching throughout this program. I'm seeing what's over on X. I know a lot of sharp college football bettors in there, specifically your guy, Matt Gajewski. You might want to be on the lookout for some early lines as the numbers just dropped here for the matchups that we got for the college football playoffs. We're going to have tons of information in the NBA streets as well throughout the entire week. The NFL ramping up as we get to the fantasy playoffs for everybody in their year-long leagues. But that's not all, friends. We also have tons of great betting content for you over at Tails, in addition to some DFS goodness by Josh Engelman and things of that sort as well. Tails.bet. Head there now or go to the App Store, Google Play Store. Would love for you guys to check that out here in the last 17 minutes. It's the number one way you can support us on the show as we are rounding it out. All righty. If I could hit a freaking button. There we go. Let's go to the tight end position. expensive Trey McBride. Heard he's pretty good at football, but he is so damn expensive. Sim's not really getting you there. This is definitely one of those that you got to give it a little boosty boost. Brock Bowers exists in that afternoon window as well. You also will get early information on Kincaid because this feels like something that is very, very volatile. I think everybody's seen what's happening with Cincinnati. I want to see some of this early ownership. I like the idea of getting myself overweight to Brock Bowers. I'm going to still be like around below the field on Trey McBride to some extent. 8K is so expensive at tight end, but I want to get some of this early information, especially with guys that I am already playing at tight end. Kyle Pitts, a little bit of Juwan Johnson with how much Shuck I've got. Darren Waller, didn't even talk about him, gave him a little bit of a boost where another week back in, we saw what that touchdown rule can be. My goodness, Spags. Tight end is jammed this week. I know Lofty said earlier that it's not a great week for it, but like, I feel like there's so many tight end like double tight end lineups showing up in the Sims.
Yeah, it's also like an insane amount of Kyle Pitts. Like I'm playing it as I'm getting it for the most part. Though I'm not quite at 60%, but I got 25% Pitts and felt like that was a crazy number. And it's above the field's 21% expected ownership. Yeah, tight end's pretty ugly. I think the pay up options like McBride to me makes the most game theory sense by a wide margin because if he hits in a major way and you have the Michael Wilson failure, certainly you're going to leap a good portion of the field because nobody wants to pay for an 8K Trey McBride. But the issue is that you are paying for an 8K Trey McBride, and that is not necessarily where you want to be either at tight end. Yeah. But you know, if he puts up 30, you probably needed him. So you know, maybe even 25, it's possible you needed him, depending on what goes off around that. So I think for Trey McBride, I see the logic there. I'm getting about 12% of my lineups, 11% in the Stokastic sim. Like I think those are good numbers I feel okay about where I'm above the field, but not crazily. Bowers, I'm above the field by a little bit too because of what he represents on the slate at a much cheaper price tag than McBride. The same, theoretical range of outcomes in terms of scoring. But playing Denver, man, I just don't really want to be there for anything at the Raiders. They just cannot get anything done against anybody this year. I feel like besides a few games here and there, and I don't see it being there with Denver. That said, for Bowers, getting 10% as well. I think he's a decent play relative to ownership, but the pay up options I'm not too happy with. Or not too crazy about, rather. Tyler Warren, thought I'd get more of. Didn't really get there a ton, but getting 10% of him feels like a flat tight end slate for me more than anything.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts getting jammed in the Sims. I find this one fascinating purely because, again, you look at metrics 7th against the tight end position. You don't hear me bring that up a lot on this show purely because every week has its own entities. Teams have so much turnover in terms of who's on the field on any given week. You have injuries like, hey, Pat Surtain on the field matters a little bit for the Denver Broncos. No shit, it does. Although last week it didn't really because it became a shootout anyway. But the point remains, Kyle Pitts, 4,200, the role with Kirk Cousins. He's undervalued to some extent, but like he's already popular. He's the most popular tight end play, and he's just getting jammed because that 4,200 playing him there allows you a lot of other things in your lineup. And like a 5.5 reception prop, I know it's juiced towards the under, but like that's a pretty decent volume when you're comparing him to like Brenton Strange, who's at 3.5, KDOT and 3.5. Like as you go through the betting board, indicating some of your DFS play, I really do think the Sims are onto something with Kyle Pitts. So just wanted to give that a shout out.
Yeah, I think Pitts is really the best play overall at tight end, but certainly the ownership will be there. I also got Barner a lot, which I don't know how I feel about that, but I think he looks like another like Pitts and Barner really the two tight ends of the same matchup. Don't have any real feel for them personally, but boy, they came up a lot.
If you tailed your boy, I've gotten what? Oh, I know I had the one touchdown on AJ Barner. I think I had 2. Or of course I have to go back and look, but he's the tush push guy too. That doesn't hurt around the goal line. He's been their tush push dude, so. They've been pretty effective with it. The offensive line's pretty good. I mean, Seattle's just a good football team this year. It kind of came out of nowhere, kind of irrelevant, but that defense just got better and better and better. And now they are a fully operational Death Star if JSN continues to be that dude. But we've got a single entry question from Nathan Perkins. We got over 3,000 people here watching live on YouTube, over 3,000 people watching live over on X. We are so lucky to be able to do this on a week in, week out basis. No matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, I love being on these shows, and I love being able to talk NFL DFS, probably my favorite of the DFS sports. NBA DFS is definitely up there as well, but NFL DFS, I know how much you guys love it as well, which makes it fun for us. So thank you. If you could, hit that like button for us. But single entry's got a question, Spags. Myers, Chase, and Kenneth Walker, or Higgins, JSN, and Kyle Pitts?
I don't mind either combo. I would go with the first one. I think you're getting a little bit chalkier there, but I think Jacoby Myers is going to be underplayed in the slate for what the situation is for him now with no Parker Washington and how that role has been evolving for him lately. They seemingly like him more than Brian Thomas at this point. But yeah, I would go with the first one.
I would go the second one. And so I wanted to let you go for sure. I'm very much in the Higgins corner this week. JSN, Kyle Pitts. I've got a lot of Kyle Pitts, just like the Sims have got. I'm definitely following their lead on that one. I think it is very, very sharp to be overweight to Kyle Pitts if he's going to be sub 20% and kind of live with the result of that. We got other guys here at the tight end position, though, that are on the cheap end. What do you think about Colston Loveland? Because you remove a guy like Ramadunze and everybody flocks to Luther Burden, who is shunned because Matthew Golden was drafted above him, and Ted McMillan, who should have been drafted above him. But the whole point is Luther Burden, he feels shunned, and now it's his time to shine. But Colston Loveland has just continued to ascend in this offense, continued to be a lot better, and has shown some massive spike upside games. I don't love going to a lot of the Chicago pass catchers purely because I think the way that you're going to beat Green Bay is probably on the ground, even though that's not some immediate easy thing to do. But you look at the Carolina game script of what they did. They just went after it, and they did not allow Bryce Young to drop back and deal with any kind of repercussions of Micah Parsons knocking his dome off. So I like the idea of Colston Loveland. I don't think I'm going to execute it all that much, but Harold Fannin, you talked about Colby Parkinson, so many great cheap tight ends to be mixing into lineups. Are you going to be playing any of these guys well over the field?
You fan and I'm getting 2x the field on, and I'm okay with that. I mean, Tennessee's defense is particularly bad. Weather, I think also there, even if it's not as bad as it looked earlier, still should be a spot where Shador is going to target tight end. He's clearly seemingly had an eye for Fannin, I would say. And he's not yelling at him on the sidelines like Jerry Jeudy, his other top options. So that's a positive thing to see. But Fannin, I think in a game too, where a little bit colder, if there is any sort of inclement weather, his shiftiness, yards after catch ability, that'll make it easy for Shador to get him the ball and him to do something with it. And that's what he did in college. So happy to be getting above the field on him. Loveland, I'm getting above the field on too, but again, just pretty split ownership besides Pitts here. But getting him at 9%. Barner, I'm getting closer to 15. Parkinson a little bit closer to 13 right now. These guys are all okay plays. I don't feel like one is particularly better than the other. Taylor, I'm also above the field on because of getting the Tyrod stacks, but it's it's every tight end and Kyle Pitts is kind of what the slate is. And I don't know, you might be better off just not playing Kyle Pitts and just rolling the dice with everybody else because they're all good enough plays, it looks like.
Well, let's get over to defense then, and then we can build out a lineup in the single lineup sim, give a little bit of time to be able to kind of show it on screen, be able to have some of our takes marinate with some of you guys as well. We can do a little bit of a recap here at the end as well. But let's talk defense, where the Commanders against my Minnesota Vikings and turnover-prone J.J. McCarthy, who hasn't figured it out. I'm a little surprised to see him pulling this much ownership, but I get it. I just really like the Denver Broncos defense against the Raiders. I want something to break in that game, and I do think there's lots of ways where Geno Smith can still be, I'm more than likely going to be in come-from-behind mode. I have more Geno Smith than it sounds like Spags does. I have 6%, I think, when it's all said and done. But the fact that they have the worst offensive line and he's the most sacked quarterback, that's really what you want. You're targeting as many of these dudes who can just get knocked over and make bad decisions as you possibly can. And that's where the Denver defense, the highest projected on the slate, totally makes sense to me. But this is kind of an interesting one too, Spags. Titans and Browns. I think both are very serviceable defenses on today's slate. The Browns obviously much more expensive. The Titans a little bit cheaper there. The game environment doesn't look snowy. It doesn't look ridiculous. It looks like there's a little bit of rain, but overall, I think defense this week, very easy to be flat and try to, hope not for the whatever Seahawks stuff that we saw last week. How are you handling defense on today's slate?
Yeah, when I was the lineups that I hand built, if I had the money, I did like going to Browns conceptually, just because I do think that people in the chat asking, does Myles Garrett break the sack record today? Probably not, because he needs 4. But there's an outside chance that he could. It is a Titans defense that it seemingly, or Titans offense rather, that seemingly is getting to a low point again. Obviously, week to week, they can maybe get a little bit better. But the Browns are a good defense. Titans are a bad offense. And I think I feel pretty comfortable with that just off the top of my head. But data-wise, Commanders seemingly coming in the most here. Got them in a quarter of my lineups. Jets also came up a good amount here. Going against Tua, I suppose, could be a little bit error prone, getting 3x the field there at 15% and change, 5% ownership for the field. Titans, I also got a little bit going against Shador. Also is not playing super well to start the year for him. And Raiders, I got a little bit, which they're 2K, I think is the main reason why. You can afford a lot around that if it does work out. And, Bo Nick's sloppy enough, but really, I'm with you. Like, there's no great screaming play here. Like, I did force in Seahawks last week. If I were going to say I was going to force in one, it'd probably be Browns, but
Okay.
I kind of took what I got for the most part.
Yeah, it just feels like a spot for me where I just kind of want to take some shots on some of these top defenses. Definitely want to mix in some of the cheapies just to get some of the top upside options. I don't really have a take on it. Defense is still silly. Let's get ourselves to super flex as fast as we humanly possibly can. But if you guys are checking out the single lineup sim, this is such an amazing way to be able to combine the idea of the sims and hand building together. I'm going to change this to the large contest. I'm going to change this to 10% to first, purely because a lot of the single entries that you're looking at on DraftKings, they're going to mirror 10% to first, $100,000 prize pool, 10K to first kind of a deal. So I want to kind of focus in on that. That's a lot of the single entries I'm going to play on a week in, week out basis. But let's build out a lineup here for the people as we round out the show, Spags. Starting at quarterback, you lead us off.
I think there's a guy. Actually, you know what? I'll be nice because I would like to go with Tyrod Taylor again, but I won't here because I think we should go with our shared QB, JJ McCarthy.
Man, we're so dusty. What are we doing with our lives? What are we actually doing with our lives? All right, running back. I do think Devon Achane, again, we kind of saw what the Sims were doing. We did have an update about 20 minutes ago, so obviously that's something we're on show. It's going to look a little bit different as far as how the ownership works together. I did run another Sim in the background. Devon Achane, I'd be okay playing in single entry, but this is probably where we can kind of click on the James Cook without any question, not have any doubts whatsoever that that's a good play, and we can kind of get contrarian with our other running back if we want to.
Yeah, I'll go to receiver if I can, and I'll go Justin Jefferson. Let's complete the stack there. I think now this will allow us to play a more chalk good plays that we like here, that we know the sim will grade out well. And we have now a lower owned stack against a really soft defense, and we both like the QB.
Well, one thing we could do is we could change this to like 5% randomness, or we could just run it and complete the lineup set the way that it's all thrown together like this. Josh Jacobs, I'm just fine with. Michael Wilson, again, I'm not fading Michael Wilson, and I'm sure there's going to be some lineups. If I'm just absolutely smashing in the early slate with a lot of my takes, a lot of the things that the Sims are giving me, you best believe I could have Michael Wilson as like the last remaining player in a lineup where I just want to have the highest projected guy, where I'm not grasping at straws or trying to guess at what that spot is. But Addy Mitchell, I love that he's showing up here. How about this? 2 Jets without Tyrod Taylor, kind of living there in spirit in our lineup, Chris Spags.
That's true. You know what? I'll take that. That's a positive way to spin it. I feel respected enough with getting 2 Jets in there. But, we're taking the obvious pivot of JJ McCarthy instead. Hey, not bad ROI.
How about us? How about us? And that's JJ McCarthy, who sucks at football. And that's going to be fun, but I'm hoping for the best for him today. Rip me and my Vikings fandom. But Spags, anything else that you want the people to know about week 14, your game plan for late swap, some of the players that, again, I'm not fading Michael Wilson. I'm just taking a calculated approach and playing a lot more Higgins and figuring it out from there in the late slate.
Yeah, I think certainly if you really are dead after the early games, I think swapping off of Michael Wilson will be a very interesting move to make. I think just to give yourself a shot there if you have the ability to swap around. But honestly, with those late games, I might not have enough ownership around it to swap off of them. I guess maybe some Burden, Chicago stuff. I guess Josh Jacobs too. But yeah, try to swap off of, like, if you're dead going to the late games and you have Jacobs and Michael Wilson, I would just pivot to anything and hope that maybe you hit at the cash line. That's the only thing that comes to mind.
That's good stuff. Guys, this was a fantastic show. Overall, Chris Spags, one of the fondest people here in the DFS space, one of my favorite people to be able to do shows with on a week in, week out basis. There is nowhere else I would rather be on Sunday mornings, afternoons with y'all than with Chris Spags here on this program. So if you could hit the like button for us, that's a horrible call. Fuck you, David. I don't know what else to tell. But anyway, Chris Spags, tell the people where to find you, where they can be a part of your life on a week in, week out basis, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, check out my NFL content at Splash Play Pod on there as well. You can find a link to my NBA channel where I do streams Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. And I'm also going to be seen on a parade in Colorado this weekend. It's a parade of dogs. That's what I thought. Oh, wait, dogs? Wait a minute. I thought we were going to a parade of dogs. I'm so upset about this. But anyway, have a lovely weekend. I'm sorry, I had to get parade of dogs in. How could I?
Love is love, Chris Spags. Well, Puppet Lindquist just had to ruin my day. Anyway, I said a lot of nice things about Chris Spags. I take them all back. I hope you guys check out the greatness that is the single lineup sim and the sims over here. If you want to, one more time for the people in the back, there is a late slate going on, afternoon slate. There is going to be a showdown slate of which you can check out EMAC and Greg Ehrenberg this fine evening and check them break down an amazing football game. High octane Kansas City, got to have it football game against the best defense in the NFL, the Houston Texans. But we got ourselves a way for you to sign up with the sims right here. 1 month signing up with DraftKings, 1 month signing up with Underdog, 1 month at Onyx Odds. You could get yourself a lot of NBA and NFL goodness of the Sims signing up in the video description box below. And one more time for the people, download the Tails app. Would love to have you guys check that out right now, leading up to the end of this NFL slate. But that's going to do it for us here on this program. I'm Eric. He's Chris. That's week 14, friends. Best of luck. Go watch some football. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you back here next week. Bye.